All right. How's it going, my magnificent sons of bitches? And I'm back again today because I wanted to go ahead and do this video. Um, More than likely, Blake the Reaper will be joining me here in about 10 minutes, maybe 15. And I figured I would go ahead and get it started a little bit early so I can go over some of my talking points. I tried to do this video last weekend and I had Stephen Rose and Blake, and this was going to be the topic of the conversation. But unfortunately, my video really didn't come out. The editing, I was having technical issues with that video. I couldn't hear Blake. I couldn't hear Steven. I had to put in my headphones. Then they couldn't hear me when I put in my headphones. And, according to everybody that's on the internet, um, you people couldn't hear me on that certain video. And while I'm not expecting a large number of people to watch this video, particularly tonight, because Royal Rumble's on and people are going to watch that, for whatever it's worth. I figured I would still go ahead and move forward with this video because I think it's kind of an important message, an important topic. And I know that Blake has had a calling to come out here and change some of the direction that he had. He used to do videos more consistently as atheist or agnostic, and then he kind of went into the New Age shift, and now he's moving on into a more form of, he's trying to look for something more stable in his life. And by all means, I hope he finds it. But I figured I would go ahead and start off this video so I can go through my talking points. Blake, it's not a big deal. You're 10 to 15 minutes late. I don't have a problem with that. I'll just go ahead and bring you in, and you can just come back and see what you missed up here. But like I said, I figured I would go ahead and get in my talking points on this video. That way, whenever you come in, we can go ahead and go over your talking points because I know you don't have much time. You told me that you only have a limited amount of time. So that's why I went ahead and started this video right at 8 o'clock your time, 7 o'clock my time. So last week's topic that we were going over and the subject matter was basically, Blake wanted to go over some of the scientific prowess in regards to the I guess legitimacy of atheism, because Blake was an atheist at one point in time. Myself and Stephen Rose were anywhere from atheist to agnostic at one point in time. And ultimately, this is what society tends to move people to, is atheism. When we look at society today, and we see the output coming in from the indoctrination of all these people in the public indoctrination systems, we can see that, and even whenever you're looking at the French Revolution, even Napoleon understood that there was a need for some sort of theology there to go ahead and keep, people have to have something to rely on. Otherwise, everything becomes, and God is necessary, regardless of what an atheist will tell you. That's why you look at the atheist, and that's why they're always so sad, depressed, angry. And that's ultimately what atheism delivers. I can go ahead and point out, every communist state is pretty much atheist. It's all secular bullshit. You go back and look up the French Revolution, and these people are not civilized. Atheists are definitely not civilized. However, they claim, oh, it's different this time. It's different. It'll be different whenever we go ahead. But it always dilapidates into pure and unadulterated tyranny. And like I said, just go back and you look up at what they did to Queen Marie Antoinette. You go back and look at what they did to King Louis. You go back and look at whenever they took over anywhere in society, that it's always dilapidated into basically nothing but pestilence at the end of the day, which I'll go ahead and get into later on. But it's funny because basically whenever you're talking with atheists, and I find this a lot, I go back and forth with atheists so much on Twitter, it's not even funny. And the thing is about atheists is they can't be honest. They cannot be honest about anything. I've never seen too many of these atheists, even at the most intellectual levels, be honest with anything. And that's not even just religion. They're definitely blatantly honest with misinterpreting religion. That's just basically their MO. They'll claim that they know a lot about the Bible, and they claim that they know more about the Bible than most Christians do. There's a difference between knowing the Bible and being able to go ahead and, rattle off some sort of biblical quotes, but do you understand that? Do you understand the context? Are you going to expand? Are you going to elaborate on your argument? One case scenario is a guy that I know, which I'll probably end up tagging him on this Twitter video because this is on Twitter, comes out and asks a question. Well, one of my atheist buddies said, whenever Jesus said that you shall not pass away when these events start to happen, talking about the destruction of the second temple and stuff like that, Matthew expands on this in, the chapter. But atheists take a small segment and they manipulate it to go ahead and convince Christians, saying, oh no, Jesus says that these people were going to be here basically for the end. But the whole deal is with that scripture, if he would have looked into it and he would have read into it, he would have understood that prophecy was already fulfilled. That Daniel 70-week prophecy was fulfilled with the stoning of Stephen, and that that prophecy that he's referring to actually happened. That was a prophecy that was already fulfilled. But dispensationalists will sit there and say, no, these are events that are going to happen in the future. Never says this in the Bible. And in fact, this is whenever they're talking about, oh, well, the temple needs to be rebuilt and all this stuff. No, the temple doesn't need to be rebuilt. That prophecy comes from Daniel, and the second temple has already been destroyed. So, they use this stuff. They tend to use this and manipulate that, and that is society as a whole today. So, like, Blake wanted to go into talking about the scientific accuracy of essentially evolution and stuff. And, I've talked about this before, and I'll piss off every atheist who relies on it because it's a grift. You know what I'm saying? It's like I did in my last video. The evolution community, the science community is pretty much a big grift. They're not really trying to sell you any kind of accuracy whenever we're talking about science. For evolution, they're trying to see if you'll go ahead and buy it. There's not really a lot of scientific evidence that evolution has ever happened. But they'll sit there and claim that anybody who is a creationist, particularly Christians, any other kind of religion they don't have any problem with. But for the most part, since we do have religious freedoms in here, since we do have protected constitutional rights that's not given to us by atheists, but given to us by God, they have a right to sit there and say stupid shit, to sit there and try to question stuff. And basically, at the end of the day, when you look at atheist arguments, all they are doing is they're asking ridiculous, redundant-ass questions, for the most part, that have already been answered. So when we look at the theory of evolution, right? When we look at the theory of evolution, we've got to sit there and consider, what do evolutionists, what do atheists think? How do they believe that the earth began? First off, there's nothing outside of nothing. There's nothing outside of nothing. And nothing had to exist outside of nothing. You know what I'm saying? For nothing to create everything. It's really kind of redundant whenever you stop to think about it. So you're telling me that nothing existed, and out of nothing created everything. And then, going on, Big Bang, everything's created. All of a sudden you have nothing, and then boom, for whatever reason, there's a Big Bang creating everything. And then, so whenever you stop and look at their science, there's no real scientific, because, they claim that the Earth, okay, first off, you have all these stars and galaxies that were invented, and they claim that the Earth, right, you have a bunch of dust or particles, right, somewhere in a void, right, collapsing in on each other, because with gases, they're collapsing in on each other. And all of a sudden, they're forming this planet because of all these gases collapsing in on each other. You have never, ever, ever fucking heard of gases collapsing in on each other. Generally, the rule of thumb is that gas expands. Doesn't collapse, it expands. You understand what I'm saying? We see this in reality. So, what you have is, for no reason whatsoever, right? These gases somewhere are somehow uh, going out into space and they collapse uh, conveniently 93 million miles away from a gelatinous ball of burning gas for whatever reason. And then ultimately, somewhere in space, you would still have to get the water that we have right now, which we've never been able to identify through any of these other planets or anywhere out in space. We've never discovered any kind of legitimate, but they'll sit there and claim that somehow asteroids are what caused this water to form. Well, here's the deal. For this to take place, right? For evolution to take place, this would be necessary. First off, you need a systematic universe. That's the first thing that you need. That lays the groundwork. That means that everything has to be exactly to its place. Anything is too close, you'll burn up into the sun. Anything too far away, you're going to freeze to death. You understand what I'm saying? It's you need a systematic universe, and there's no way that you could be off by even a millimeter. Even a millimeter would be devastating, and life couldn't survive on this planet as we know it. So, once you get the systematic universe, you have to somehow get this ball of earth, dirt, and rock in the middle of this void around this monotonous ball of gas burning with the right elements just to even sustain life. You would have to get this. Once you got that, and like I said, it would have to be positioned just in the right spot. Once you got that, you would have to then get the first cell, right? Well, when you look at it, whenever you sit there and you think about it, you need the protein to get DNA, and you need the DNA to get protein. There's no chicken before the eggs. Like I said in my last video, which will probably be deleted because I've had audio problems, you need both of them. And this is why a lot of people right now are waking up. They're starting to understand the arguments for abortion are ridiculous whenever people are going to sit there and claim it's just a clump of cells. That's stupid. Do you know how complex a cell is? Do you know how vital that nucleus in that cell is for that cell's function and whatnot, and how the complexities and the RNA, DNA, all of the proteins that you need to go ahead and have that cell function? It's absolutely insane to sit there and think that this would happen by chance. To get a systematic universe alone, that would be 1 to 10 with 120 zeros behind it. However, to get that cell in the right kind of environment for it to even sustain and to replicate life, now you're talking about 1 to 10 with 40,000 zeros behind it. It's mathematically impossible. This isn't what they teach in evolution. This isn't what you're going to hear in the science class. Why? Why would they not tell you this? Why do they make such a big deal about it? Why are they so, why are they so just vehemently angry with people not having any confidence and wanting to go ahead and accept the fact that there is a God and there is a creator, and that their science lacks a lot of, accountability? Well, the whole difference is they've built a market around it. If your job depends on people believing a fucking lie, you're going to protect that lie at all costs. Well, with the invention of the internet, it's really kind of hard for them to protect this lie because people like myself and various other people have been coming out and exposing what's going on right now, saying that none of this shit makes any sense whatsoever. However, they'll sit there and say that there's no scientific evidence in the Bible. But whenever we go back and read Leviticus, we see how they take out. You go back and look and you read The Origin of Species, right? It was to protect the bloodlines of favored races. Charlie Darwin himself actually married his cousin, right? And they had kids together, which suffered from a lot of handicaps. They suffered from a lot of mental conditions and whatnot. I don't know if any of them turned out right at all because they were breeding too close together. And what ends up happening is that, if you have, your DNA, everybody's DNA has some sort of deficiency. And whenever, you and your sister or cousin or whatnot, y'all are going to be having the same deficiencies because basically, you came from the same people producing this. So what you do is you'll have gaps in there, which is going to cause mutations, which isn't good for anybody. Do you know what I'm saying? However, this is why those links were taken out in Leviticus, is because whenever you get with somebody, whenever you have children with somebody that's not closely related to you, well, then they're going to have their deficiencies are going to be different than yours. So you're going to fill in those gaps. And that's ultimately why inbreeding leads to these mutations and whatnot. It's what it is. So, first off, like I said, our mathematic right now, we're going through mathematics. We have to have the systematic universe to go ahead and create life in the first place. And as I've said, the chances of getting a systematic universe by chance without intelligent design is 1 to 10 with 120 zeros behind the motherfucker. To get a cell capable of reproducing life and replicating itself, you're looking at 1 to 10 with 40,000 zeros behind it. Whenever you get to this point, right, it's already mathematically impossible for evolution to even begin. Whenever they're sitting there talking about, oh, well, it's a missing link. It's a missing link. There are trillions of missing links between us and the fucking monkeys or the apes. Then that's our closest ancestor. There are trillions of missing links, not just one missing link. You know what I'm saying? It's impossible because it didn't really happen, first off. But, ultimately, the deal is the Bible explains that these people are walking after their own lust. It isn't any kind of sound reasoning that they're going with whenever they're trying to sit there and convince you that there is no God. The reason why they're trying to convince you that there isn't any God is because they want to walk out, they want to be sinners, they want to be evil, they want to do wicked. That's generally why they do this. They are walking after their own selves. You know what I'm saying? And whenever we look at stuff like, you can go look it up in liberal Missouri, you can go ahead and look it up in the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone and stuff like that. Whenever you see these people sitting here thinking that they right now at the fucking border, they're trying to put up a barbed wire fence or something, making it look like a demilitarized zone. That's like every fucking communist country ever. But, whenever they go after themselves and everybody starts walking and trying to hold everybody else accountable by their own morality, and I'm fixing to bring in Blake right now, adding to the stage. All right, man, you're here. Yeah, I already started it because I knew that you didn't have a lot of time, so I was setting up the base for it. But like I said, Blake's channel, it's in the description of this video. So I've been explaining exactly the the likelihood of this being a result of evolution. So I'll go ahead and give you a minute to go ahead or I'll give you some time. Let Blake take the floor for a little while and explain what he thinks about it. Because I know you had something great to sit there and say on my last video about the lunar cycle. So since I'll probably end up deleting that video, I'll go ahead and let you go through that.
Well, can you hear me this time? Good?
Yeah, I can hear you good. A lot better.
Cool. I'm going to try it on this phone. Worst case scenario, I might have to switch phones, but I think everything's good. Dude, I truly believe before I get into this, I find it hard to believe that you being in Texas and this being here, like me being here, had anything to do with that, dog. I think we truly were DDoSed. I could be wrong on that, but it almost appears to me that someone doesn't want us to get this message out. So, and that could be me being a conspiracy theorist. I don't, as you know, I'm not really big into conspiracies though. But I, I guess what I'm going to say here is with the lunar cycle, and before I want to touch on that briefly, and then I want to get into really what I'm trying to do and what I want to do with this post in here is. You said, have you already went into the sun cycle? How it had to things had to be perfectly aligned with that, and it could
Uh,
be
yeah, the systematic universe already went through like the systematic universe, and I was gonna get into like the symbiotic relationships necessary, the Mendel's laws of genetics, the biogenesis. We have a lot of shit out there that's necessary for evolution to take place that somehow you have to skip over entirely. Nobody's ever seen shit evolve. You know what I'm saying? Whenever you get a mutation, generally you end up dying. We've never seen one species evolved into another species.
correct.
However, we have seen a lot of stuff go extinct. So, but I'll go ahead and let you go ahead and get into your stuff. But yeah, I laid the groundwork for that already, just to kind of get us here.
Roger that. Appreciate it. Well, first off, let me say that I believe in evolution, just not evolution the way it's taught. And I will explain briefly what I mean by that is I believe right now humans are going through evolution. We are evolving our minds. Not only our minds, but our hearts or our consciousness, as you could say. And I do believe that this is a time in I think this will be a time in that people will look back in history and say that we made a quantum leap, if you want to say, in terms of being humans or being kind to each other or understanding the fundamental purpose of us being here, which should be to unite and to love each other and help each other. Now, with that being said, going into the lunar cycle briefly, it if the moon did not happen, and you can listen to science, and it says that the Earth, another planet hit the Earth and it broke apart and created the moon. That's it. Doesn't matter whether you believe that or not. My main point is, if the moon was like so many fractions off away from us, like I can't exactly remember the amount, but if it was like, let's say, a few feet away, and I could be wrong, check me on that, but it's not a lot. If it was further away by a little bit, it would destroy everything. Women would not even be able to have menstrual cycles, which means that we would not even be able to have babies to continue living here as humans. That is incredibly fascinating, and that as well with the groundwork you've already laid. Unfortunately, I didn't hear it, but last video I know what you said, so it was perfect. That in itself should show you that there is a creator or a hand at play here. My biggest thing that I want to do with this whole with my channel, with any podcast I'm on with you, Paulston, or anything we do going forward, which I hope we continue to work together like this, is to, without a doubt, open people's minds, open their eyes, and prove God's existence. Not just, oh, I believe in God. I know there's a God. I've proven to myself there's a God, without a doubt. And like you said, it is a personal relationship you have to have. However, if you do not have that open mindedness and you are not willing to accept and admit that you could be wrong, especially if you're an atheist or you're whatever you are. I used to be an atheist. Again, I just want to reiterate this. Without a shadow of a doubt, I believe we can prove there's a God. That is my whole mission here. I want to be an example. I want to be an example of God's grace, His love, His guidance, but I also want to prove without a doubt, there's a God. I've done that for myself. All that me and you can do, or anyone else can do, that has done what we've done, Polston, is to be an example and plant seeds and open people's minds and hearts. And unfortunately, back in the day, I went about it the wrong way. I preached it. I got into debates and arguments with atheists or whatever, even religious people, just because I am not. Christ is in me. I've asked Christ into my heart. I'm a follower of Christ. I try to be as Christ-like as possible, but I don't want a label of Christian put on me. And I'm going to explain why. Because it creates a division, and I don't want that. I just want everyone to listen to the message that Christ gave and make their own mind up about it. And if they truly just listen to what the man spoke and get rid of all the other stuff that they've been told or the way they've been taught it, they will see and understand that all he was doing was trying to preach love and unity. That's it. Like, people want to say, I saw Andrew Tate, for an example, and I'm not for or against Andrew Tate. The man says some good things. He also says some crazy things that I think's him playing a character, because I used to do the same thing, so it's pretty easy to spot. However, he said that Christians were soft and that Jesus, or something about being soft. And supposedly there's this extremist group in Christianity, or maybe even, I believe it's Christianity, that wants to get out Jesus at like the New Testament and strictly stick to the Old Testament. And I don't think people understand Jesus. Jesus was he was a man that spoke love and unity, but he was also a badass rebel. He went up against the government. He went up against religion. He knew what was going to happen and let it happen. Dude, it's Jesus is one of the most badass people that ever existed. The man taught love, preached unity, but he was also at the core of him a badass rebel. And that is the Christ or Jesus that needs to be presented, and not this. And I don't know how you feel about that, Paulson, but I truly believe that if it is done properly, and I think that I've not got it down perfect yet or to a science, but I believe I have got it down to a point to where I can explain God and Christ in a way to where it's not pushing people, it's not fear mongering, and it's not in a way that makes, I guess, people feel some type of way about it. Because, as a former atheist, and me myself, it's almost like, this is how I know that Christ is something serious and real. People used to talk about Jesus, and it irritated me. It brought something up within me, a feeling that I can't explain.
That might have been actually, some of it might have been me, because you remember whenever I came into YouTube, I was already, pretty set in Christianity by that point in time. And you were still kind of an atheist or agnostic to some degree,
Yeah,
to
you could
remember
be
right.
right. But it wasn't just you. I just remember everyone, like, anyone brought up Jesus or God, and I mocked them. I made fun of them. It brought up this irritating feeling within me. And brother, as soon as I started talking about Christ and Jesus, I saw it. I saw it within people. The same irritation, like there's something there. You don't get that from anyone else. You speak about Buddha to people, whether they believe it or not, you don't get that. It's almost like the name Jesus or Christ has such an impact with people's demons that it causes a reaction within them. And it's very fascinating. As you know, I have spent and dedicated 4.5 years of my life studying other religions, 4.5 years of my life delving deep into my own mind. It's no secret I've used psychedelics. I've spent 4.5 years going to the brink of madness, destruction of myself, pretty much. 4.5 years going deep into psychology. And you know that I didn't want any of this to be true, Poston. You can back me up. I didn't want any of that to be true about Christ or Jesus. So if someone like me can come here and say that that is the truth, and you can experience it for yourself, you don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take Poston's word for it. You don't have to take anyone's word for it. It is easily accessible to anyone that wants to connect with God or Christ. It's there. You just have to have an open mind and be willing to admit you're wrong in certain scenarios and drop your ego. If you can do that, I promise you, Christ or God, whatever you want to say here, will guide you. You will see signs out here in this world that will guide you. Things will come into your life to help you out. There has been so many things that has happened to me that I don't know if you would want to. I can speak nothing more than miraculous events that have taken place with me. And I feel like I have been reborn. I feel like there's still a couple things I need to work out within myself. But other than that, man, I have completely changed. And none of that was possible without me having that open mind, dropping my ego, admitting I was wrong, and just simply asking for the truth and asking for that connection. So I guess what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that is what I'm trying to do here, is open people's eyes and minds and hearts, because I truly believe we are in end times. I truly believe that there's not much longer. And I am not saying that in a scary Armageddon way. I'm just saying that we are going. Yeah, I'm not saying you need psychedelics, brother. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I have experimented with them, and those reaffirmed that. And I didn't. And again, I didn't want that to be true. So it's not like confirmation bias, by the way. But yeah, I agree. You don't need psychedelics to do it. But that's my main mission and goal. And I truly believe there's not much time left.
Yeah, and so like Blake was sitting there saying is that because like I was the same way. I was in the Navy. My deal was mainly sex, pretty much. But I mean, I was in the military. That's kind of like our thing in the military. You pull into port. I was a sailor. So, of course, that's what you do when you pull into port. You got to let off all this freaking testosterone whenever you pull into port. And then, of course, the other thing was booze. So, the thing is, just like Blake is saying, that there's not going to be anything really there to fulfill that void. And this is one thing that atheists don't get whatsoever. And I had so many conversations, walking each other home. This is somebody watching this on Twitter and whatnot, which, I'll probably actually get a few more Twitter people on here. But with that being said, it's one thing that you can't really get atheists to understand is that there's nothing that's going to be able to fill that void like God. And, they'll sit there and they'll claim, oh, no, this is just a fairy tale. It's all myth and whatnot. I want to go ahead and make one thing clear is that they're right. The Bible is written by man. What would you expect the Bible to be written by, though? Would a hyena help? Is that what you're thinking? That a talking walrus or something is going to sit there and write the Bible? So
Right.
you're alone saying that your book is written by man is no way, shape, or form an argument, because the Bible is man's relationship with God, not God's relationship with man. God existed before man, and looks like Blake has headed out. God has existed before man, and then ultimately, uh, you know, man is writing about his experience with God. The argument in and of itself doesn't make much sense. I'm gonna let Blake back in.
Sorry about that, brother. I'm going to have to mute this and go take care of something because it's going to keep doing that if I don't. So give me 2 minutes, okay, brother?
Okay, not a problem. But anyways, like I said, that's a logical fallacy to think that you know the Bible being written by anything else would somehow legitimize the Bible more. So whenever they use that argument, I'm already kind of skeptical of even carrying on conversations with atheists because I know that they're not being serious. At the end of the day, your arguments are much like the abortion arguments whenever they claim it's a clump of cells. I got to take it at good faith that you're willing to have a logical, rational, reasonable conversation. This is one of the reasons why I've kind of like went away from having conversations with atheists and really at exits altogether, because, it is kind of like uh, a distraction point for the most part for like media and shills and shit. So it's kind of hard to have an honest conversation with these people that get on X and whatnot. So you got to understand, and it's just like Blake said, Blake's relationship with God is going to be a lot different than mine. So I didn't have psychedelics, so I don't know what Blake's relationship is with God because clearly Blake had psychedelics. I've never had psychedelics. So when you're reading the Bible, you have to understand exactly the certain positions. Peter is not going to see the same thing as Paul. You know what I'm saying? Paul's not going to see the same thing as Matthew. Matthew's not going to see the same thing as Luke. They're all coming at it from different perspectives in their own personal relationships with God. And so, they're writing it from these perspectives. Whenever you're looking at the Bible, particularly the Old Testament, it's more of a chronicle of man's existence here with God. And that's what it is. Like I said, the scientific acumen regarding evolution is in no way, shape, or form legitimate whatsoever. They'll claim that, oh, well, dinosaurs roamed the earth, and you had an ice age, and ultimately, this killed the dinosaurs and whatnot. I could tell you exactly what went ahead and extinct a lot of these larger animals. And that was an event known as the flood. And if you go back and you look at it, those mountain ranges, and it's something that I just looked up. You know that the highest peak in the United States is kind of parallel, about 80 miles distance from the lowest peak in the United States in Death Valley. So, the highest peak is Mount Whitney in California, in the Sierra Nevada. And then the lowest peak is in Death Valley, California, which is the, what is it? Something basin. But it's like the lowest peak. And you'll notice a theme here is that these mountain ranges tend to line up perfectly with those trenches at the bottom of the ocean. You know what I'm saying? So what that tells me is that whenever all these plates started to shift, you had plates that would come together. The ones that moved together moved up and formed the mountains. And the ones that, went away from each other kind of went down and formed the trenches. You know what I'm saying? If you looked at archaeology the right way, instead of sitting here trying to sell a placebo, basically, because like I said, that's the hard part about society today, is everything's based on these placebos. A lot of these placebos were pushed by people with invested interest. A lot of these people were, and it's all Satan, don't get me wrong. We need to do a video where we go ahead and track Satan all the way up from Cain, whenever we were kicked out of paradise. He was kicked out of the Garden of Paradise, all the way up until today. I can do that, but
I'm down for that, brother.
Yeah,
I am down for that.
But these are invested interests that are making this up. When we look at society, right, and like I said, you can go ahead and look. You know that they did a test, on the Great Barrier Reef during World War II. Some of the reef was destroyed. Now, they measured this reef, and whenever it started to regrow, they started to measure, at what rate it grew at. They determined that it was about 4,000, about a little bit over 4,400 years old, pretty much, which would have dated back to the time of the flood. Whenever you look at the desertification of the Sahara Desert, which is our biggest desert, that dates back to about 4,400 years. You look at the rate of erosion, because we still have mountains and stuff today. At the rate of erosion, the continents would be worn flat in about 15,000 years. And our oceans would probably be completely filled with mud if we were, older than a billion years, Yeah. It would be this planet and the geography of this planet, if it was 4 billion years old, like those people that are trying to push evolution say, it would look very, very differently when we go ahead and look and consider that we're losing our magnetic field and whatnot. That only puts the Earth less than 10,000 years old. So they don't really put these sciences out there. You have to go back, you have to look at these studies, and you have to figure this stuff out for yourself. That's what I'm trying to say is that, like, what I think happened is whenever, because it says in the Bible that water came from out of the earth. This is what it says in the Bible. For 150 days, the waters was coming out of the earth. So yeah, you had a flood coming down, and it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, just like I said in the Bible. But what it also says in the Bible is that water was coming from out of the earth. It said that the earth broke open, the waters busted up. So what I think happened is we had this big, you've heard it. It's in scriptures. It's called the firmament. We had the firmament on the earth. What I believe is that firmament was made out of ice. And it blocked UV rays, because we understand that water will block UV rays. And I believe it was like a frozen ice that was outside of our atmosphere, and why, we didn't have, these issues right now with X-rays coming in, because we were protected by this firmament, which also increased oxygen for these animals, particularly larger animals. What they've discovered is that, the brontosaurus, one of the bigger dinosaurs that's like 80 feet long, its nostrils is the same size as a horse. And they're like, well, how the hell did this thing get enough oxygen in it for it to, be able to be active and to, run around and to be able to maintain its existence just for its functions?
Right.
And what they discovered was, whenever they discovered some amber, some of the little sap with the bugs in it and whatnot, and they discovered that those air bubbles, is that at one point in time, our atmosphere was 32%, had 32% oxygen, which is like, right now we're at 21. So that's like, 50% more oxygen in the atmosphere when they existed. If you were to increase this, we would be healthier, we would be stronger, we would be able to run, not get tired, we'd be able to do a lot more stuff. So there's no way in hell that we're evolving. There's just no way. This is according to science. This is according to studies that they don't tell us. You know what I'm saying? So what I think happened was, when that water came out, it hit the firmament. Whenever it was busting out, it, spewed 20 miles into the air because it was under so much pressure. And what ended up happening is that ice started to break apart. This is why you get the ice age, because those woolly mammoths didn't, like, die because it got so cold over a period of time. Whatever happened to them woolly mammoths that they sit there and say this proves the ice age, whatever happened to them happened relatively fucking quick. It didn't happen over a span of billions of fucking years, because they still had food they were digesting in their stomachs. Whenever they went ahead and looked at the result of these animals, a lot of them looked like they suffocated. So whatever happened, it happened where the temperature must have dropped down 300 below zero, which is, there's no place on Earth. The coldest temperature it's ever been is like 127 degrees on Earth. So whatever happened relatively quick. And that's what I believe happened. Scientifically, the Bible is probably a little bit more legitimate. When you look at it, we speak different languages. We have different cultures. Evolution will never sit there, and because, really, to be honest with you, sign language, would be the easiest form of language, and you wouldn't want to, if you're evolving, you would want to go ahead and keep everything as easy as, you could. Whenever you look at, some of these animals that, drink out of stagnant ponds, they have a more higher tolerance to bacteria and infections and whatnot. When do we lose this? You know what I'm saying? That doesn't tell you that we're evolving. I can guarantee you that my grandfather, could probably outwork me under the table, and was a hell of a lot stronger in his 60s probably than I am right now. And his grandfather was the ones that was traveling the open trails and settling this country, and having to live off the land. Yeah. So really, at the end of the day, we're not evolving. We're kind of being domesticated, pretty much. Yeah. And I'll go ahead and kick it over to Blake and let him go ahead and add in some more to this and see what he thinks about it.
Now, yeah, I agree with that. Now, when I said earlier that I believe we're evolving, let me make that very clear what I mean by that, because I need to be precise with my words, because it's going to sound like I'm contradicting myself by agreeing with you in this scenario after I just said I believe we're evolving. Uh, in terms of what you just said, yes, I can see it that we are evolving in terms of, dude, we are being domesticated. We got too freaking comfortable. Social media is a great thing, but it is used, if it's not used properly, it screws you. These office jobs, this people do not go out into the land as much, out into nature. What I mean by, and I do agree with you, by the way, 100% agree with you. But what I mean by evolving is, I think that there is something going on right now where Christ or God is evolving our consciousness,
How
which,
about an awakening?
yes, best way to put it. That is it in a nutshell. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
God's waking us up.
yep, that's what's happening. And you're either going to be on like I said, and I know that you'll have experience with this, and I know that I have experience with this right here. But I'll go ahead and let you talk about it a little bit more, because I know you've had to you've kind of fell into this trap as well. But when you don't have that relationship with God for the most part, right? Whenever you rely on your own means and whatnot, these people, they're constantly greedy. They're constantly gluttonous. They're addicted to drugs. They're addicted to sex. They're addicted to rock and roll. They're addicted to all these things.
Yep.
And they'll never be able to fill it. And I know that, like I said, you coming back to Christ and starting to develop a relationship with Him. Can you go ahead and elaborate on that? This is one of the shortcomings of atheism, and like I said, you and I are just as qualified, if not more qualified, than a lot of other people to sit there and talk about this whenever in regards to atheism.
Correct. I can 100% say and admit, and this is, I'm very open about this, especially if you go on my channel. I had a drug problem. I did. And I wouldn't necessarily say I was an addict, more so as I was addicted to escaping reality. I was addicted to escaping, I guess, God, if I'm really being honest, because I think He kept trying to quote unquote wake me up, and I didn't want anything to do with that. So it was like I was purposely, all I know is I had so much resentment and bitterness and anger, and just, I was mad at the world. I thought I knew everything. I thought that I could do everything on my own. I thought that I was smarter than everyone. Well, not smarter than everyone, but I thought that no, I mean, I was a egomaniac. I abused drugs. I unfortunately cheated on my wife, my ex-wife, who is one of the most amazing people you'll ever meet in your life. Uh, and it destroyed me. I mean, I was not a happy person. I wasn't. And if you go back in those days and you watch my videos, or you knew me, you would think I was living the perfect life. I had a nice house, cars, had money, had the quote unquote perfect family, the American dream. But inside, and to the people that truly knew me, there was a part of me that was just bitter and angry and resentful, and just a conniving, lying, manipulative cheater that abused things, that used things. And it, again, this wasn't me all the time, but it was there and it came out. And it was only through God and Christ that I was able to break free from those things. Some things I'm still working on. I mean, I am. I am. I take depression medication due to some things that I have done to myself, and the guilt that I have brought upon myself. I'm learning to forgive myself more and more. I'm learning to accept the past as it is. But if it was, I just want to make this clear, guys. If it was not for God or Christ, I don't know where I would be or what I'd be doing right now. I was I was headed down a very bad dark path. Just put it that way. And I can remember distinctly the first time that I heard God talk to me. It was back in 2019, I believe. It was around February, maybe March, but I believe it was around somewhere in those times. And it was like I heard this whisper in my ear say, "Hey, you should treat people better. You should take care of yourself more. Like you're." And it wasn't harsh or cruel or judgmental. It was just this loving voice that was like, "You're taking advantage of people. You're using people. You're not living up to your full potential. You don't treat yourself right. You look at yourself in a horrible light." And that was my first experience with God. And it, it scared me. Like, I'm not going to lie to you, it scared me because I didn't know if I was going crazy or if I was developing schizophrenia because this wasn't my voice. This was a different voice. And this is unfortunately what happened after that is I did really good for a short period of time. And then I went to my daughter was in a Christian musical. She does this theater camp every summer for this local Christian theater church thing. And I was sitting in there, and I slowly reverted back to my old ways. And I was sitting in there, and it was like this overwhelming anxiety and panic hit me. So much so that I had to leave the church or the theater, I mean. So I had to leave early. And the next day, I went out and bought a decent amount of cocaine and a decent amount of Xanaxes. I went on a 3-day binge. And normally when I did that, I felt like shit for a week after. But it was almost like when it all ran out, it was like I woke up the next morning and that voice came back and it said, "All right, are let's get to it. Wake up, let's get going." And this is verbatim. This may not be exactly what it said, but I'm trying to remember. But that's as close to remembering it like I thought. And then it was just like boom. I had this overwhelming sense of love hit me. I had this overwhelming energy and this motivation, drive, and desire to just want to do better and be better. Now, that was probably around the summertime, and I did not ask Christ to come into my heart until I believe it was a few months after that, or it could have almost even been a year after that, but I believe that it was around, no, it was the next year. So I was doing better, doing these things. Around September of that year, I had another experience that I don't know how to explain to anyone other than I went to this place called The Void. It was like I was sitting on my couch and then everything went black and it was just me sitting in this empty thing. And I didn't even know what a human was. I didn't know who I was. All I know is that I was somewhere with something and I felt this like I felt this presence of love. And then it was like I came back and it was almost like a light at the end of it. Like they say that when people die or whatever and they come back, they see that and then they see the light and or whatever. I don't know how to freaking explain this, Poston, because it's bizarre, but this is just the truth and what happened to me. And so the next year it was like I would do really good. I would promote things and then I would slip back into my old ways and my ego would take over dramatically. And then it took until the summer of 2020 for me to ask Christ to come into my heart. As soon as I asked Christ to come into my heart, I knew it was real because it was almost like my life flashed before my eyes. I was it was almost like my vision went from being fuzzy to clear. I have no way how to explain it to you other than that. And it was almost like I felt this presence, and almost this presence put its hand on my heart. And it was the most overwhelming, loving thing ever. And so that's that's how I know this is real. And ever since then, it's just reaffirmed itself more and more and more and more that it is real. That is real. So that's why I'm inviting people. I'm not saying you'll have the same experience I've had. I'm not saying it'll be that drastic or dramatic. I'm just telling you my experience, and that's just a little bit of it. But I'm telling you, Christ, whatever, has saved me. Like, it brought me out of hell. And I'm not saying that anyone listening to this, I'm not saying this is some magical thing. It is, but you have to do the work, and you have to want to change, and you have to be willing to implement the changes. But that is, I don't know how to explain that to people other than the way I just did. And it sounds insane, but I'm telling you, it is the absolute truth. And my connection with God has grown stronger and stronger and stronger ever since. I talk to Christ at least 3 to 5 times a day. As soon as I wake up, I'll tell you exactly what I say. I say, thank you, God, for coming into my life. Thank you for showing me the errors of my ways. Thank you for opening my eyes and opening my heart, having mercy on me, having grace, for showing me what love is, for loving me the way you do. Thank you for bringing the people into my life that I needed. And I just pray for everyone around me. And I pray for everyone on this planet, for their eyes and minds and hearts to be open. Because at the end of the day, that's all. I just want everyone to have that relationship and to be happy. I want us to get rid of this division. I would love to bring heaven on earth here. And that's the way to do it, is through the individual. If we can get each individual to experience that, then we can all unite. We don't have to agree on everything. We can still disagree. We can still have whatever. But at the end of the day, if we do not unite and love each other, and just let the past go, and drop the bitterness and the anger and the resentment, and just I'm not saying to get rid of your ego. You still need your ego, but you don't need that overinflation of it. It needs to be dropped.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: this is a perfect message for Twitter right now, which this is being streamed on right now. Is that when you go on Twitter, what do you see? People just going around attacking each other. You know, I'm one of them people. I come in there, you know, I do my points of view, I put in my debate and stuff like that. But you know, whenever you stop and think about it, right? And this is particularly pertaining to the media. For the most part, you know I've been a troll ever since I started doing the internet. So
Yep.
of course, you know, I know how to push the little buttons and whatnot. I've always known how to push these little buttons. So I keep pushing the little buttons and whatnot. I used to do that on YouTube. However, whenever we go ahead and look at the media, right, they're trying to get us to get into a civil war. You know, and this kind of a great segue into the next topic, because you just said that, you know, we're heading dangerously close, not really to an end, but like both Blake and myself agree on is a new beginning. And this is why it's kind of really critical right now to what direction you want to go. And this is why we're doing these videos. What direction do you want to be on at the end? You know what I'm saying? Because you've got all this animosity, this hatred. I'm telling you, they pick the most egregious stuff to put out there to go ahead and cause resentment for each other. They put out, you know, and this is, like I said, for the most part, mainstream media, Hollywood, the government as a whole. The government does more to divide citizens and people, you know, divide us from our brothers and stuff, than they ever do fixing any of the problems that they created. It's not the people in Mexico's problem, or it's not the people in Mexico right now's fault, which, you know, is a highly exaggerated story, by the way. But it's not the people over there in the Latin American community's fault that your dollar is being inflated. It's your own government's fault. You know what I'm saying? They'll spend more time causing division and hatred and animosity towards each other. That's satanic. You understand? That's how the devil operates. The devil operates in confusion, causing division, causing people to hate each other and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, God didn't want, humanity to join up and to be of one mind and one body and stuff like that too. But God is, like you said, God is 110% absolute love. That's what he is. And, we're quite fallible because we all, and I have it, Blake has had it. Blake has said that he's had some deficiencies. He's still working. He's still a work in process. And I know I've been a Christian a lot longer than Blake has. And you'll never be perfect. We're never going to be perfect. We're not designed to be perfect. There's wickedness in everybody's heart. We'll all
Correct.
have our shortcomings. We'll all have our issues and whatnot. But it's like I said this in the last video, and like I said, I kind of want more videos up here like this right now, because I've done these videos on Stephen Rose's channel where I talk about we're quickly heading into the end. So, a lot of people, and like I said, this is what my book is going to be about, but a lot of people seem to sit there and they're waiting for the New World Order to rise and the Antichrist to go ahead and take over. And I'll kick this over to you, but I'll go ahead and explain it real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Bible makes it clear, and the Bible interprets itself. So, like, where's the first, who was given the first prophecy for Revelations about the end of the world of all these governments? It was a pagan Babylonian king named Nebuchadnezzar. He was the one that was given the first dream of eventually what would happen towards the world. You know what I'm saying? The direction that the world was going to go. It was his dream of the statue that had the head of gold, the chest and arms of silver, the belly of brass, the legs of iron, and the feet of partially iron and partially clay. We've already went through all of this. We're already past it. We're probably past the feet being of partially iron and partially clay. Daniel says it in the book. Like I said, the Bible interprets itself. The head was Nebuchadnezzar. It was Babylon. So who conquered Babylon? That was the Persians. So we know that the silver has to be the Persians. Whenever you look at the belly and thighs of brass, we know that the Greeks are the ones that conquered the Persians. So you have the legs of iron, which we know is the Roman Empire, and the feet of iron and clay is the Holy Roman Empire. And I'm pretty sure that Blake will back me up on this, but it was somebody that was a sinner, somebody who did not, worship God. He worshipped pagan gods and stuff, his gods of his ancestors at that point in time, but he was visited by God. So I'll go ahead and kick it over to Blake and see what he thinks about it.
Give me 1 second, Paulson. Go into that a little bit deeper, because I do agree with you, but there's certain things that you are way more knowledgeable about than me. So, especially when it comes to the Bible. Now, I have studied the Bible. I have listened to different people's interpretations. I have came to my own conclusion on it. But when it comes down to the hardcore, what you're talking about right now, you know more than me. I will tell you this. I believe that I have came to an overall theme of the Bible, and I can go into that. But again, like going back to the first streams that we've done, I do not feel comfortable really speaking about things that I'm not. I'm trying to find the best way to put it. If I don't know about it, I don't feel comfortable speaking about it, and this is something I feel like you know way more than I do on. So.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go through kind of the steps and kind of like where we're at today, and then I'll just see if you agree and whatnot, and where I think that we're fixing to head into, and then we'll go from there. Then we can kind of wrap it up, because I know you don't have a lot of time. So, Nebuchadnezzar was given that first dream, of the statue, given the world governments, and that's what they were. They were world superpowers right now. And right now, we're living in the second beast, which I'll go ahead and get into. So Daniel has yet another dream. And then, John has the same dream. So these dreams are of that first beast. We learn in the Bible later on in Revelation 17 about the whore, which is pretty interesting right now, because we're getting into a lot of these prophecies, I think, that are fixing to come to pass. But you have the first beast rise up out of the sea. Now, whenever the Bible is, these are metaphors, right? Nobody's expecting Godzilla to come out of the ocean and then just go ahead and waylay the entire earth and then go back into the ocean. That's not what they're referring to whenever they refer to a dragon. You know what I'm saying? Dragon
Yeah.
usually means the authority. That's what the dragon means. That's what it means in every metaphor. So Daniel sees this dragon come out of the sea, has 7 heads. We know that the 7 heads stand for 7 mountains. It even says this stands for, yeah, the 7 mountains. We understand that this is, comes out of Rome, basically. The sea is the multitude of nations, peoples, and tongues. That's what it is. This is what the Bible says it is. This isn't from me. This is what the Bible claims. It's the nation, it's a multitude of diverse people with different languages, different ethnicity, and different tongues. So we can see that this is the what's happening here is that this beast has authority and whatnot. It has 7 heads, which is the 7 mountains. So it's telling you right away, this is comes out of Rome. This beast comes out of Rome. It comes out of Europe. It has 10 horns. Whenever you look at the 10 horns, you have to go back and say it's 10 kings, right? Because Daniel says there yet again, the 10 horns are for 10 kings. This is why whenever somebody says that the New World Order is going to be broke down into like 10 compartmental states and whatnot, and that these 10 horns will have 10. Okay, so these are the barbarian tribes. You have the Lombards, which are the Italians. You have the Burgundians, which are the Scandinavian people. You have the Sueve, which I don't know how to really pronounce a lot of these names, so forgive me, which are the Portuguese. You have the Alemanni, which are the Germans. You have the Franks, which are the French. You have the Saxons, which are the English. And I may be missing one or not, but I'll go ahead and get into the ones that were plucked up from the root, because Daniel explains 3 of these kings were plucked up from the root. And that would be the Vandals, the Ostrogoths, and the Euruli, all plucked up from the roots. Ultimately, this was by Justinian. So whenever these 3 kings were taken out by Justinian, this, by the fake donation of Constantine, you had the, basically given all this authority to the papacy, is what it was. So by taking up these 3, all the nations of Europe pledged their allegiance under the Pope. And the Pope is the one that claims to be God on earth. He's the one to speak for God. He's the one that changed the times and laws, just like it said in these books. And ultimately, what ended up happening is he was the kingmaker for all of Europe. That's what he was, because his power was given to him by this secular authority, by Justinian and Charlemagne. They pledged their allegiance, their undying allegiance, to the papacy. And so the Pope, of course, reigned from whenever he got his power, pretty much, and his authority all over over all of Europe, and Judea being included. Whenever he got that authority, that was on 538 AD. That's whenever he assumed his throne and his right to govern and rule all over these places. Now it says that this, one of its heads had a wound, right? It had the deadly wound. This happened in 1798, whenever Napoleon went and arrested the Pope at the time, and took him into captivity, fulfilling the prophecy of, he who killeth by the sword will be killed by the sword. He who leadeth into captivity will be led into captivity. And that's exactly what happened to the Pope. So, that was the first beast of Revelations, which we've already passed. I know people like to watch Left Behind, and they think that, oh no, it's the New World Order, and Donald Trump and Obama are going to come together and they're going to create the New World Order. That's not how any of this works.
Correct.
He was 538 AD to 1298 AD is 1260 days, which it says in the Bible that the Antichrist will be given, time to rule for 1260 days, each day equaling for a year, that we understand that this is how prophecy works. You get what I'm saying? So during that time, you had the Reformation. This is what first started the wound. And then ultimately you had the French Revolution, which was a secular movement, which ultimately took the Pope, which actually, was the fulfillment of the deadly wound. You had this other country overseas coming up. Now, the second beast, the false prophet, has it rises out of the earth. So if the sea, right, is a multitude of nation, peoples, and tongues, the earth would be just opposite. It wouldn't have a large population, and it wouldn't be as diverse, and it wouldn't have as many languages. It would be pretty much wilderness, basically, is what it would be. So we know that, the second beast has to come up in an unpopulated area, more than likely in the West. It had two horns, right? And it was a lamb-like creature, which means it's going to be a Christian-like creature, but it's going to speak like a dragon. So whenever we think of two horns, maybe sit there and think about it. Separation of church and state. We
Yeah.
have we have a government that doesn't have a king. We're not a monarch, but we also don't have a pope, a religious leader, a religious authority. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this beast comes up right after the first beast goes down. You go back and look at the United States of America, right? And you look at the revolution. First off, there was no way that we could beat Britain. There's just no way. That was the world superpower. That would be like say one of the Scandinavian countries trying to go ahead and launch war against the United States right now. It just wouldn't happen. They wouldn't have the means. They wouldn't have the necessities. They wouldn't have the military experience, whatnot. It would be just a slaughter. And so, we needed a lot of help.
Can I interject real quick here?
Yeah, go ahead.
So if you go back and listen, or not listen, but if you go back and look at some of the journalism that the people in the war were writing about, especially George Washington, and I think this is where you're heading towards, Polston, is it was divine intervention. That George Washington talked about how something was guiding him and telling him how to do things. And he would see like lights. And some people, I used to be one of them, that would argue that that's proof of extraterrestrial whatever. I'm not going into the alien stuff. I don't know. I necessarily do not care. However, I do, and anyone listening to this, go research this. Don't just take my word for it, because I don't want anyone to just take my word for anything, or any of Polston's word for anything. Do your own research. You will see that throughout that, they were being guided and helped by something, by a force. And it's not, in my opinion, it could be nothing more than divine intervention from God. And I'm not sure if that's where you were headed. I just wanted to interject, because you, like what you said, spot on. Like, mathematical impossibility for us to be able to pull that off.
Right.
So
And so I'm gonna elaborate on something else that you may not have heard. But whenever the Puritans came over here, they entered a covenant with God. You look at where the Declaration of Independence was, and I want to make everything perfectly clear. The first beast and the two witnesses, those prophecies correlate, and they're about the same people, right? The two witnesses that are in Revelations, and the first beast of Revelations, those are about the same set of people from different perspectives. Because, like I said, the Bible is written from a human perspective. The virgin that was taken into the earth and the second beast are the same people as well. And so when you read the Bible, understand that these are, correlating people right here, and these are parallel, happening simultaneously at the same time. So, like Blake said, Washington said it was divine intervention. And whenever the Puritans crossed over here, whenever you had the great Puritan migration, which we know as the Pilgrims, they entered a covenant with God coming over here. And so Um, like he said, if it isn't for King Louis at the time, which would ultimately end up being decapitated, if it wasn't for France, and in fact, a lot of your freedoms are found in the Treaty of Paris. Actually, if you go back and look it up. So yes, whenever they say, "Oh well, God doesn't give us our freedoms, government gives us our freedoms," the first time we were ever actually identified as a nation, accepted as a nation, was through the Treaty of Paris, and that was by a divine presence, a divine creator, regardless of what you want to call him, whether it's the Christ or the another Christ, which is what Antichrist means. Uh, it was that went ahead and gave us our religious freedoms and whatnot. So, whenever you look at this beast, it's coming up out of the earth, and it was a lamb-like creature, and it spoke like a dragon. And basically, when you look at it, the real only way that Catholicism really kind of survives, because you go back and you look at the French revolutions. They were trying to change the calendar. They were trying to start the year from 1792. They were basically trying to go to a 10-day work week, or a 10-day work week. They were trying to go to a 10-day week so they can go ahead and get rid of the Sabbath altogether and just make 3 10-week months and whatnot to go along. They were trying to change everything. And so that's how the French Revolution, that's how anti-religion they were. So for Catholicism and this religion to survive, it had to come to the United States, and it had to you had to have religious freedoms. You go back and you look at the United States, and ultimately we were a Christian nation. We still accepted the God of Jacob, of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. So I meant now we have this nation coming up, a second beast, right? A second superpower coming up in the West, out of the people. And to be honest with you, you go back and look at the War of 1812, right? Whenever the British were coming over here to attack. The only reason, the one thing that stopped the British from going ahead and going any further past that is a fucking tornado, dude. A tornado came out and hurt a lot of ships, did a lot of damage to the British troops, and really kind of protected this country. So, yes, the United States was divinely protected by a, outside presence, regardless of what you want to sit there and think it was, because the United States was necessary. So, what I'm trying to say is that this is where you're getting your second beast in Revelations. This is where, ultimately what happens is, and like I said, and I said this before in my last video, where the number, take the number of his name, 666, right? This is what it says. You must accept the number of his name, 666. Well, what's that number of that name? That's Vicarious Filii Dei. That's the name that was inherited by the Pope whenever the Pope went ahead and took over. If you go ahead and take Vicarious Filii Dei in its original form of whenever, because the Romans didn't use U, they used V for you. But if you were to go ahead and break down that name in Roman numerals, it's 666. So this is where you get the number of the name. So ultimately, what you had was the Pope assuming the position of Jesus. He was another Christ, an Antichrist. In fact, his name, he goes by the Vicar of Christ, which is yet another Christ. And we understand that the Pope, in and of itself, is the chair of the Antichrist, and that the second beast is the United States. Like I said, you go ahead and look at where we're at right now, and we have 6 Supreme Court justices that are Catholic. Joe Biden is a Catholic. Nancy Pelosi is a Catholic. Kamala Harris is a Catholic. Trump is a Jesuit. Justin Trudeau is a Jesuit. Ron DeSantis, who was running at one point in time, is a Catholic. All these people are kind of connected to the Catholic Church. And, pretty much we've already went through the 4 horsemen. The 4 horsemen have already passed. So, those are the 5 seals that we're talking about. The first one was what? The white horseman. right? He was given a bow and he was meant to conquer. A lot of people call this Jesus. Some people think it's the Antichrist. They're absolutely right. What ended up happening is towards the end, whenever the Catholic Church was starting to deal with when they were starting to deal with the Protestant Reformation and these people trying to go out there and because ultimately this is what whenever people will sit there and say, "Oh yeah, the mark of the beast, you're not going to be able to buy or sell." That doesn't mean that you're going to be able to not going to be able to buy a loaf of bread or sell a loaf of bread. That's not what
So,
it means.
what do you think the mark of the beast is going to be?
Well, like I said, whenever whenever you look at it, and if you were to go back, whenever it's talking about the mark of the beast, now I find this very interesting, and this is how you can understand that the Bible is a hell of a lot more than just some sort of book written by random people.
Correct.
Mathematically, and how this shit lines up is absolutely just unique from somebody who is open enough to try and understand it, right? So, where you hear about the mark of the beast is Revelations 13, I think it's verse 17 through 18, right? Where it's talking about 666. If you were to go to Revelations 10 chapters earlier in 3:18, Jesus says, he says, if you were to buy, right? If you were to buy gold made from me, tried by the fire, then you would be rich. But he says you're not rich because you're not buying this gold tried by me. So for you to buy something, somebody has to be selling it, right? When you look at whenever the Holy Roman Empire took over, right, the Bible was available in 500 languages, and ultimately, if you wanted access to salvation, if you wanted access to these scriptures, and if you wanted to go ahead and learn about God through these scriptures and whatnot, you had 500 languages to choose from. Slowly, it began whenever the Holy Roman Empire took over. It slowly started to be, down to one language, which was already a dead language, which was Latin at the time.
Right.
So, what I believe is whenever you're talking about authority, right? Whenever you're talking about a mark, it's given on the head, right? And it's given on the right hand. So the Bible is very specific. Whenever a mark's on the head, that means in the thoughts. Whenever it's on the right hand, that means the works. So, this mark right here that they're talking about is the number and the name of a man, which is 666, which we've already identified as being the Pope. Vicarious Filii Dei is where you get 666. And ultimately, what it is whenever you give these people authority over you, instead of allowing God, to be your creator, to be your, authority, no man can serve, two masters. It says this in the Bible. And so ultimately, you're giving yourself over to the world. So, the Bible, like I said, you're just because it says that, oh, you know what, no man can buy or sell, that doesn't mean that it's, monetary thing. That's not what it means. It means that, you got the 501c3 right now, which means that me and Blake can't go out there and preach a message of the gospel that could inspire people. We have to watch what we say. And if, say, somebody thinks that they're offended because we preach a message about perversity, homosexuality, or something, trying to save people and whatnot, the government might say, well, you know what, we're going to go ahead and take away your 501c3. We're going to go ahead and take away your right to go ahead and preach this message, even though it tends to be an issue today where you have a lot of these people coming out questioning their sexual identities. And we see the issue. We can't really preach against it, whatever it is, because now so many people, you understand how that works. So we're not able to sell the gold that, Blake and myself are not allowed to sell this product, this gold to you, because, the society, the people that we put in charge won't allow us to.
Oh,
you see what I'm saying?
That makes sense. Let me interject on two things here. this has came up in my life over and over the past month or so. I just want to point this out, and I may butcher it and I may mess it up, but supposedly and I can speak from experience, the worst form of hell is being lukewarm. I believe that's what Jesus said. I could be butchering it, but it's not just Jesus or Christ that said this. There was other things. So it's like you have to pick a side. And a lot of people, myself included, was putting myself in the worst form of hell that there was by being lukewarm. And that just goes with something you spoke about earlier. And to go with this about, I'll just give the gold right here about what I believe is going on with this, with homosexuality and transsexual people. And again, I want to make this very, very clear to anyone listening. I don't care. Listen, I'm not against anything anyone wants to do in their own personal life. Because again, I'm trying to get rid of division. I'm trying to get rid of anything. But the gold I believe that I have that I can give out to people that are questioning if they want to become a female or a male, or if they are homosexual, which again, I personally see nothing wrong with. I'm not judging anyone. That's not up to me to do. But I do believe that within each of us, we have a masculine and feminine side. And I do believe what has happened is a lot of people are, you could maybe are tapping into vice versa side more so, and they weren't aware of it being there. So myself, for an example, I believe the feminine side I tapped into is being more soft, being more caring and loving, and just listening. However, that does not mean that I believe I'm a woman or should be a woman. And I think a lot of people are misinterpreting those sides of themselves, uh, and are going off of that, meaning that they're making huge life altering decisions based upon something that they're tapped into, and it takes a little bit of time to integrate. Just like you need to integrate your shadow into yourself, you need to integrate your soft side or your feminine side into yourself, just like you do your masculine side. So I do believe that's where a lot of confusion comes from when it comes to this, to people believing they are the born the wrong sex or whatever. And that's, listen, there's studies that back this up. I'm not talking negative about transsexual people. I have two friends that are transsexual. I do not look at them any different ways, but I am saying this. Look at the science behind this. Look at the psychological damage that is being done by this. Look at the suicide rates that go along with this. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But I want to make it. I want to make that very clear. Paulson said was spot on with that. Like you need to. You can't play both sides, the middle, both sides against each other. Because I did that. I can admit I did that for a minute, and that was the worst form of hell I've ever experienced. And in my opinion, this place can be heaven or hell. Not
Correct.
truly, and understand what I'm talking. Paulson, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But anyone listening, this earth can be heaven or hell, and that's all based upon your state of mind, the way you're looking at yourself, the way you're interacting with things. And I unfortunately put myself through hell repeatedly, and I've experienced multiple forms of it, and on deeper and deeper levels. And unfortunately, it took that for me to realize that that's what I was doing, and to fully step into the light, as I'd like to call it, or to wake up, or whatever you want to say here. So
I think like myself, right? And this is the issue that I have with it, because I don't care one way or the other what a person's dealing with, because we all deal with sin. Blake deals with sin. I deal with sin. We all struggle with sin. And regardless of what you want to sit there and think, homosexuality is a sin. There's nothing that I can do. I mean, it's not up to me. Regardless, with that being said, it is a sin. And so we all struggle with sin. However, with that being said, the issue that I have with it, right, is that they push this into pop
Yes,
culture and
yes,
they push it into education. And
that's
then you
my
try
only
to
issue too.
normalize it and, reflect in and of yourself, right? Your struggle, your battle, you're dealing with this. You know what I'm saying? From one day or to the other, your struggles with it, right? Do you really want to go ahead and push this as something uh, somehow? Because, like I said, what would happen right now if Blake went out and did a video where he's, saying, "Oh, you need to do psychedelics." He already said that he did psychedelics. That was one of his sins that he had a struggle with. If Blake was trying to push psychedelics onto your kids and trying to push psychedelics as some sort of glorious, great lifestyle, knowing of all the negative consequences that came with him doing the psychedelics and doing the drug addiction and the alcoholism that I think that he had to struggle with at one point in time that he
Yep.
mentioned.
Yeah,
Um,
alcoholism was one of them.
and so, if he tried to push this onto kids as like it's a good lifestyle and like it's a glorious, great lifestyle, and he's struggling with it and he knows better, well, then he's kind of accountable with it. And it's the same thing that the LGBT people, the people that are homosexuals need to understand is that, it's not just about you being homosexual that a lot of these people have a problem with. It's the sheer fact that they're pushing it in society as some sort of, and like I said, it's a sin. You're pushing sin. And, it's funny whenever you get somebody like Madeline Murray O'Hara that'll sit there and say, oh, well, I don't want my kid learning about God. I don't want him praying in school. Oh, yeah, these Christians are just evil. They're tyrants and all this other bullshit. But at the same point in time, they'll push a disbelief in God. They'll push anti-moralism. They'll push all this shit into schools. And this is really kind of where we're at right now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that
And
is that. Let me just interject here for a moment. That is, I'm going to say this, and again, this is it's my opinion. That's all it is. I personally do not. I don't know. We all sin. We're not perfect. We're not going to be perfect. And I do believe, even though we sin, we can go to heaven. I don't believe just because someone's a homosexual that that they are excluded from heaven. Because again, we all sin. That's my personal belief. I'm not, again, that's just me personally believing that, and I could change my mind on that later on. I don't know. The other thing I want to point out here is psychedelics are a drug. They absolutely are a drug, but I abuse them. That's my issue. Is I abused them to the point I almost got delusional and psychosis from it. Not almost, I did. And I want to say that I do believe, if used properly, this is the biggest word I can say here, and the most I can iterate this. And um, this is not posting condoning this on this channel. This is not me pushing this or promoting this. I'm just giving you my true opinions and feelings. I believe if psychedelics are used properly in a right setting, that it can be used for healing just like modern medicine can. However, I am not promoting it or pushing it. That is something that you really need to understand what you're getting into if you do it. And you need to understand that that's not something to be played with, and it's not something to do repeatedly either. You can look up studies from Johns Hopkins University, so where they will show you the substances such as ketamine. uh, Ketamine really isn't a psychedelic, actually, so I have no clue why I brought that up. Psilocybin, LSD, and ayahuasca, and I believe a bogai or a bogaine, I've never tried that one, have amazing results when it comes to depression, when it comes to addiction, helping people through that. And there's a lot of people that have found God through that. And I don't mean this new age God craziness that I was almost wrapped, not that I was wrapped up in it, I can tell you that. and this new age stuff is satanic. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm not promoting this. I'm not promoting psychedelics. I'm just saying, if anyone, I don't know what I'm trying to say, because I don't want to sound like I'm promoting it, because I'm really not. I'm just saying that there is benefits to it if you don't do it stupidly like I did, and if you do the research.
So, yeah, we'll go ahead and get into the second horseman real quick, right? Because we went through the white horseman, right? And we understand that that's the Catholic Church that waged a war on the saints, you know. And it says this actually with the first beast, right? So the second horseman, right, is the red horseman, which I find this to be fascinating. Whenever you know, listening to sermons and stuff like this, and figuring a lot of this stuff out as I go along. And like I said, whenever you start to, you know, connect with God, like Blake says, you'll be able to understand a little bit more. You're understanding God a little bit more. That's why, you know, you can, you know, you form a relationship with God. So, you know, the horseman with the red, what does it say about the red horseman? It says he was you know, given authority to take peace from the earth. He had a sword. He was given authority to take peace from the earth and whatnot. Well, when you look at communism, what is communism? Communism believes in perpetual revolution. So the red horseman, that's communism. You know what I'm saying? And then after that one, you have the black horseman, right? And I remember, like, it's funny because I don't know if they teach this in school or not anymore, because it's been so long since I was in school. But they used to sit there and say, well, the red part of the flag for the Nazi flag was for socialism, and that black swastika was for fascism, because they had a fascist economy. Fascist economy believes government regulation on a private market, essentially. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like our stock market. So what does it say about fascism? It's a black horse, and don't hurt the oil or the wine. It carries balance, which is a tax, you know. And it says this in the Bible. It explains this, you know. It has the scales, you know, where you have to have taxes and stuff like that. Don't hurt the oil or the wine. Well, what happens whenever you have a problem in the Middle East? Well, your gasoline is like $5 a gallon. Whenever, you know, produce, or there's a, you know, drought somewhere, you know, it's going to make the price of, you know, that produce go up. So the fascism is the black horseman of the black horseman of the apocalypse. Well, guess what? We're already in the pale horse. We've been in the pale horse since 1945, whenever Israel was made a nation, and whenever we got this little thing called the United Nations. You know what I'm saying? The color of it is pale blue and white, and it's basically essentially globalism. That's what it is. So we've already went through those four. We've already went through those five. We're in the fifth seal right now, because what do you hear? Quite a bit. Everybody's like, well, how long are we going to have to deal with this? How long do we have to deal with these wars, these famines, all of this, you know, pain and suffering and whatnot, you know, with the border crossings and the illegal immigrants and the sex trafficking and all this evil bullshit right now.
Right.
What does the sixth seal say? It says that there's about to be a shaking of the earth. And I really believe this, because people are reaching their boiling point. People have had enough. We've had these people in government, whether it be organized religions and whatnot, controlling the world, from Babylon, which was your New Age religion that you mentioned that you were involved in, you know, from the Persians to the Greeks. You've had theocracy after theocracy all the way up until the Romans, whenever they created the Holy Roman Empire, turning polytheism into monotheism with Christ, right? Because it was a Christian, you know, is basically, you know, a Christian, but they were still practicing polytheism, even though Christianity is monotheistic. They were still giving these pagan guides, like the Madonna and Child was the Virgin Mary and baby Jesus. Hermes was the Good Shepherd, which was what Jesus was supposed to be. Jupiter became Peter, so they started giving him all these saints. You know, they changed the day of worship from Saturday to Sunday. Like I said, the Catholics were basically paganizing Christianity. So now what we have going on I think here pretty fucking soon is we're going to end up heading into the sixth seal, which means that the season, like I said, everything is a metaphor. These mountains are going to shake, these seas are going to shake, and these islands will shake, and everything's going to be moved out of its place. And I do believe that that's not necessarily these, like, massive earthquakes and stuff, even though there are going to be earthquakes in diverse places. It says this in the Bible. But I believe that this is going to be on a much larger scale in regards to these nations and kingdoms, that there's going to be a great shaking here pretty soon, and everything's going to be shaken out of their place. And that's where I think that we're heading into right now. So I'll go ahead and kick it back to you and see what you think.
I mean, I agree with that. I don't know. I don't really think there's much more I can add to that, Paulson. I can tell you that we are at a boiling point. We're at a tipping point right now because I'm out here I'm talking about the real world with real people and not just this, because I think unfortunately a lot of people are caught up in what I'd like to call internet land. But unfortunately we need the internet. This is the paradox in a catch-22. We need the internet to spread the message. However, most people are deluded by the internet, meaning that like they see, or social media or media news in general, to where they promote, like we've talked about so many times, they promote the negative and push the negative and push that division. And then they want men to think women only care about this, and they want women to think men are this. And then it's that's what I would, and music plays a factor into it. People have been brainwashed, or programmed is the better term. They've been programmed with television shows. They've been programmed with school. They've been programmed with music. They have been programmed with social media. So a lot of people are living in a delusional internet world. And again, there's nothing wrong with the internet if used properly. And I think me and you are using it properly now, Paulston. So I'm talking about real people every day that I'm seeing that are just feeling this overwhelming sense of sadness and sorrow and just fed
Fred?
up. And we are at a boiling point. We're at a tipping point. And this is why I'm telling anyone that will listen. I'm not preaching it. I'm not forcing it on anyone. I just want it because I feel like this is what I'm here to do. It's my purpose in life. And if I don't do it, I would be failing God. I'd be failing Christ, and I'd be failing myself. So all I want to say is the way that you're correct, that we're at a tipping point, a boiling point. And the only way through this is to unite and to love and to accept Christ. Or see, now it sounds like I'm putting a thing on it. Okay, let me pick my words carefully.
Accept the Father, the Creator. Have a
Yes.
personal relationship with your Creator.
Yes, that's the best way to thank you, Paulson. Thank you. Those are beautiful words. Thank you. That is what needs to happen. That's the only thing that will save us. And in the end, us connecting with the Creator, the Father, God, Christ, whatever you want to say here, and through that, what He brings into our life, what He puts into our hearts and our minds, uniting and coming together for the betterment of society and the world, is the only way through this, is the only way out of this. That is the end, or like I would like to say, the beginning's in the end. That is the beginning. So, and I think we're close to it. More and more, I truly believe we are close to this just by me talking to people, just by me interacting with people, by me listening to them, by me paying attention to things going on around me. I'm a big believer in signs from God, pointers, as you will, or catalysts, things of this nature. And I'm telling you, I have never seen the signs this. I've never seen the signs like this before. They are everywhere. They are literally everywhere, pointing to that. And I don't know. I mean, it comes like a thief in the night. So I have no clue. I have no clue when it's going to happen. But I'm telling you, I truly, truly, with all my heart, believe that. I mean, it could happen any day now. I
Yeah.
don't I don't think we make it out of the year without a drastic change. And again, I'm not saying the world's ending. I can't keep repeating this, but I don't want someone to twist this. I'm not saying Armageddon, the world's ending, and all this shit. I'm sorry for cursing. I'm trying not to cuss anymore. But
It's fine. I cuss all the time, so
the we're close, and I'm telling you, we're close. The signs are everywhere,
and
and
I'll tell you something because I know you and myself, and some people that are starting here. I know Scott Casey Gill probably was too. We were doing internet, back whenever the internet was just starting to really become popular. You know what I'm saying?
right,
Uh, we had the internet before, but never to the effect of where social media brought us. And so we started doing YouTube. I was on YouTube in 2007, but I didn't start making videos till 2012. And you're one of the ones that came in about 2013 or so, and you know, we were doing videos. But like I said, we all had our own things. We all had our own individuality. It was kind of like, for a lot of these guys that watch wrestling, I know Scott Casey Gill's one of them. It was kind of like the Attitude Era. You would be talking about, maybe some sort of secular thing on the internet, or talking about something entirely different. I may be talking about something about, conspiracy, something that somebody said, or maybe doing, Dark Horse may be doing a Chris Benoit video. WJ was doing a parody video. I might do some video editing and be trolling Sean or whatever I was doing at the point in time. And so, you could never tell. There was always a wider variety of what you could find here on the internet to the channels that you sub to. Now, what I see is more of an Operation Mockingbird. If you go on the internet right now, most of your videos are going to be a Texas, Joe Biden's going to go to a civil war with Texas because YouTubers are trying to grift off of that. You know what I'm saying?
right.
And basically, they're trying to instigate stuff. If it's something about, you mentioned the guy's name, Andrew Tatum, I think his name is. I
Yeah,
don't
Andrew
really
Tate.
I never really cared that much for the guy. But whatever it is, if he does something ridiculous and weird, it's all about that. You know what I'm saying? And it's Operation Mockingbird. And the internet was never like that. You had your own little groups. And every once in a while, we crossed over into those groups. So, like, you had the Great Debate community, which I've, did a little work in the Great Debate community. You had the YWC. You had the TTC. People talking about different stuff and whatnot, and they had their own little communities. I would call up Dark Horse and say, hey, you know what, Dark Horse, you should do this. Every once in a while, we would cross paths and we would do works. You were a part of a work with me before. Dark Horse and I would do works. Me and Stephen Rose would do works every now and again.
We did
Sometimes,
a lot of works, Poston. We did
yeah.
about we probably did, I would say, 3 to 5 off the top of my head, and I can tell you exactly which ones they were, too. Even there was one where I took over. There was a group channel, and you reached out to me, so thank you. You came across one of my wrestling videos because I was all over the place at first with YouTube, and you came across one of my wrestling videos, and you were like, "Man, you're a really good talker," and you brought me into that little community. So thank you for that. And I remember,
I think that was actually Manny. Manny introduced you to me, and then I kind of introduced you to everybody else.
oh hell
And then,
yeah,
yeah, remember Manny Gentleman? Yeah, I think
I
it was
do.
him. And he goes, "Oh, look at this! Check this guy out." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, he has a future."
And you told me, you was like, we got together, and it was something to do with Dark Horse. He was, shout out Josh, by the way. His Benoit stuff is blew up. He needs to, I talked to him last night. He needs to make more of these videos. It's been a year. There's more stuff out. Do it, Josh. But it was essentially basically me, you and Dark Horse were at odds, and you were talking about bringing somebody in to take over. And then boom, it was like I came on the channel at first. There was like a group channel or something, and I came on it at first just making my little videos, and then eventually I was the one that, me and Dark Horse went at each other, and I was the one that took him out or whatever. That was the first work. Then we did the Revolution work. Then we did that work with Knock Knock, and then we did that work with which the Knock Knock work wasn't even going to be a work, but his crazy, he really took it there. Like that
Yeah,
was,
but he was good, the guy had talent.
he really did. And it was funny because it was like, do you remember this? We knew exactly what he was going to do before we did it. And we screen captured it. We was like, because we were going to change the password to the group channel, but we didn't, because me and he was like, let's not touch it. Let's let him expose himself. And then he's going to think he has the upper hand. And then we're going to drop this right here showing. And then that was when the Smart Busters they were involved, but they didn't necessarily know about the work, and they wasn't a part of the work. And then we did that one that I would like to think it was the most clever one we did, just because so many people believed it. So many people was making responses, and dude, I've never got that much heat before in my life. Bro, I had freaking Cabal coming at me. I can't even remember who all. There was people dropping videos about me daily, and they were heated. And then we made it so believable, man. People truly believed it. And you remember we talked about this off air. It was a group of people I ran around with at the time, which I don't have anything for them or against them. I think some of them are decent. I'm not kept up with them in a while. I'm not sure what they're up to, but they personally got mad at me, and in the process of getting mad at me, actually exposed themselves for being sensitive and liars at the time. Anyway, I don't know how they are now, and this was so long ago, I hold no ill will. But that was a brilliant one. That was actually a brilliant one. But yeah, we worked together a lot, man.
And it was more fun. People enjoyed coming on the internet. Now people don't like going on the internet as much because of, and like I said, for the most part, it was like what I think killed the internet was that bill going out that Obama pushed, which was that HR 5181. Now you have all these YouTubers. I call them YouTubers because there's no autonomy with these people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We had a lot of fun doing these works and whatnot, working together and stuff like that. And like I said, there was so much diversity, so many people that had talent on here that would do videos. And it was just, we would have fun doing these videos together and communicating with each other, kind of like what we're doing right now. Now you look at the internet, like I said, for the most part, Twitter is mostly shills for the most part, or sock accounts. People will create an account and then they'll sub to themselves. I only got one Twitter account. Now I do have multiple YouTube accounts, but that's for an entirely different reason.
Yeah, but, same here. I got a couple, but it's not to troll people. It's not to like my own videos from them, because I don't even think they'll let you do that anymore. So it's just for reasons, but it's
for backups. Yeah, you always had more than one YouTube account for a backup, because YouTube has been known to flag a lot of people, take down content that they find undesirable. So you always kept a backup channel, and I've got a few more, that I use every once in a while. Now I will go out and troll on them every now and again, but that's only because so many people, particularly on sites that I go on where I'm having a discussion with somebody will comment to me, but they'll have me blocked, so I can't see their comments. So I have to go on another account to respond.
Yeah, that sucks, dude.
Yeah. And so, but now it's, the internet has changed, and it's not as fun as it used to be anymore. You look at sports, it's not as fun as it used to be anymore. If this would have been about 10, 15 years ago, we would be watching Royal Rumble with everybody else. I just, I'm hoping it gets better. There's some characters on wrestling that I like now, I can get invested in and get involved maybe. But, it's kind of like, that buyer beware anymore, that they've kind of went and pushed certain stuff and try to incorporate so much social media bullshit into them that we're kind of skeptical. At least I am. I'm kind of skeptical with it. It's the same thing with sports. Sports look so fake anymore. It's hard for me to watch. It's hard for me to get invested in. These people
Yeah.
don't mind talking about fake sports, but I don't watch football for the same reasons I watch wrestling.
So by fake, you mean more or less that like, because I remember me and you got it like, dude, that was, and I think you might have been trolling me or maybe you was serious. I remember you actually, props to you, bro, because you actually, I mean, I can say this now, props to you because you actually hit a nerve just because I actually did MMA.
Right.
Was actually
Oh,
involved in it, and you,
that was Dark Horse's thing. I'm gonna let you know right now.
he knew it,
Yeah,
but
I don't really watch a lot of MMA, and in fact, I like a lot because what's the guy? One of the guys was down here in Waco, and I went to a sports cards convention and stuff like that. It's kind of a nostalgic thing to me, and I met one of the MMA guys, and me, the old school wrestler guy, because he has the old school mindset, and that MMA motherfucker, dude, we got along like fucking peaches and cream, dude, because they're fucking based, I'm fucking based. This old school wrestler guy was telling us about based shit that he used to do, and so we actually had kind of a good time.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but the MMA thing, I have no idea about MMA. I like the guys. I get along with the motherfuckers. I actually worked with a guy who did MMA, but I wouldn't know the first thing about MMA because I that wasn't my thing. But that was Josh's thing. So yeah, what you're talking about of me striking the nerve, you can thank Josh for that one too.
That was good though. You got me, dude. There was only two things you ever did or said that actually struck a nerve with me, and it was the sleeper and then that MMA thing. Just because, dude, I thought, and I understand now you was talking about the summer of Polston, you sitting in the car. So I thought you was copying me, dude. Like everything, I was like, this dude's really copying everything I'm doing. And then he's, which, dude, I should have knew better. I mean, that was immature me, and I should have known. But I mean, I'm gonna give it to you, props, bro, because you legitimate, and I was a troll, and so one troll to another.
Yeah, we were.
You got me.
I mean, like I said, we were all trolls to some degree or a form. You know what I'm saying? Everybody. WJ was a troll. You know what I'm saying? Dark Horse was a troll. He knew he was trolling. I was a troll. But, it was entertaining. It was funny. It was, more of a thing to get some satire going and get people invested into watching. And like I said, the Reaper thing, Dark Horse, was sitting there saying that I should do something like that. And, so because me and Dark Horse would talk quite a bit almost all the time. So I got the mask because you would come out with the mask and you were doing the Reaper thing. So I found the mask, but like I said I was going to put a little Eddie Murphy and change it a little bit and basically just do rants on everybody else because you kept saying that all you had to do was do a video. And like about that time, the summer of Polston, man, that's what I was talking to about Stephen Rhodes, is that like I had like the beginning of the week, fucking the company I was working for would make me work 48. It was supposed to be a part-time job. I was supposed to have two part-time jobs. It's not the way it turned out. I was working 48 hours at the beginning of the week and 24 hours at the end of the week. So I almost like had no time for anything. And so when people would do videos on me, I made a shit ton of money because I was always at work and I couldn't spend any, but whenever people would like fucking Dark Horse would get so mad at me because I wouldn't make the video responses. Like you said, I would always make a video response. That was your thing. All you got to do is make a video on Polston and he'll do a 30-minute response, right? That's where the catchphrase for sleeper came from. But whenever the summer of Polston rolled around, that's why all my stuff was done from my car at the time. Is because I was always heading from one job to the other. And so, ultimately I would have done them from my apartment, but I was hardly ever at my apartment. I had an apartment, but I was just hardly ever there because I had to get up at 11, and it would be in shifts. Like I'd work from 11 to 2, then I'd get like an hour or so break, have to be back there about 5, work till 9, and then I'd have to go to another place where I'd work till like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I'd have to get up the next day and do it all over again. And so, that's why I wasn't doing that many responses during that point in time.
But going back to the sports things, I'm not claiming sports are rigged or fake, but I will tell you this: the judging and the refs, there's something up with them. Especially in MMA and football, boys or girls, women, children, whoever's watching this. I'm not saying I do not believe MMA is fake. I do believe that there has been a lot. Let me rephrase it. MMA has been fixed before. There's plenty of fixed fights in MMA, no doubt about it. However, I do not believe that present day UFC or any of these other promotions. Well, I don't know how to say it. Pride, there was a bunch of fixed fights. So let me just say UFC and Bellator, for example, or PFL. I don't think that they are fixed or it's rigged or they're fake. However, I do believe the judging, there's something up with it. And it's disturbing, just like ref calls in football. So I'm actually more, I kind of see your point and more open up to that now. It just depends on which way you look at it. Do I think they're flat out fixed from the beginning? I don't know. MMA, I truly don't believe, but I believe that do not leave it in the hands of the judges because there's something up with them. And even Dana White, I mean, he's been going on for years about how like these athletic commissions should be completely overtaken or at least get new people in there because he believes they're so dirty. Just because, man, there's been a few fights here in the past. It's picked up a lot more to where it's like ridiculous calls, but there's been a few fights that there's no other explanation than the judges rigged it or fixed it. I don't know if they're making money off bets. That's what I'm thinking, but I don't know.
I'll tell you, because I play football and I play basketball, and I can tell you that some of these players are in on it. You know what I'm saying? There's just no other way to sit there and say it. Whenever I watch a football game anymore, it's more like I'm watching Madden. You know, ridiculous generic looking plays. Some of the offenses look generic. Some of the defenses look generic. Um, you know, it looks like, oh, they're setting it up for like a photo finish victory and stuff. You have too many storylines coming into the NFL right now with, this player has all these rape allegations on him. This other player has a mental breakdown, takes off his shirt and does jumping jacks on the field. It's gotten to be too feminized, I guess what you could say. It's more like a soap opera more than it's actually the game that I like to watch whenever I'm like, yeah, who we're going to trade for, who we're going to get. And, most of the people covering it are covering it from like a Dungeons and Dragons, which is, that whenever we were doing actually, I think it's whenever we were doing the MMA troll and stuff, with Dark Horses, whenever I get Dungeons and Dragons Guild thing where I created the Seth Rollins character. And yeah, I remember the whole MMA thing was a CM Punk troll that I was doing somebody else. It wasn't even for you necessarily. It was I told Dark Horse that there was this guy who was a TNA fan that was also an MMA fan, and I told Dark Horse, I said, I need some really really bad arguments that he could just dismantle because I want to say that, oh well, MMA is fake because CM Punk lost. And you and I, we were all kind of like, oh yeah, CM Punk was the balls back then. And so, I said, yeah, I want to troll this guy and say that MMA was fake just because I want to seem like a bitter CM Punk fan. I did, because I told, me and Dark Horse used to talk all the time. I'm like, just no way, fucking CM Punk is going to go into the MMA and do what Brock Lesnar did. You know what I'm saying? And so I knew he was going to get his ass kicked before he joined the MMA. And but I said, I want him to think that I'm bitter. I want some complete garbage arguments that seem fucking redundant to go. And that's what Dark Horse, helped me out with that. So he thought it would be funny. So yeah, he goes, yeah, just go ahead and use this as an argument and go ahead and use that as an argument and he'll get irritated. But it was just to troll another guy.
I really wanted Punk to win too, man. Like I was really rooting for the guy. That sucks that he lost both times. He He had balls though to go do it. I mean, you got
No,
to give the
I
man
give him
credit.
that. I'll give him that. But I knew he wasn't gonna. Like I said, I had worked before I even started doing these videos and whatnot. A guy that I worked with, brother, used to, he ran a trash truck, and he used to, because this was whenever I was working at SpaceX. And so he would come out there and get the trash at SpaceX and every once in a while. And this guy did MMA, and he would do some extreme training. So I knew that whenever CM Punk got in there, he's not facing these guys that are going to take bumps, and he's not going to have to. These guys are legitimate, like fucking like lunatics and working out and shit. So, uh, I knew that wasn't going to work out very well for him whenever he went to go mess with them MMA guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I was hoping he'd get one, man. I knew Mickey Gall would probably mess him up, but I thought that maybe when he fought Jackson that maybe he could pull that one out. But dude, they both embarrassed him. It's sad.
Yeah. That's why I made that meme about he should fight Sean Strickland. That would be fucking hilarious. Because, I kind of like, because like I said, I know that a lot of us were pulling for CM Punk, especially after the pipe bomb promo and a lot of the work he was doing in WWE. But now it's, ever since he left the WWE, he stopped being CM Punk. He stopped being edgy. He went ahead and fell into the social media garbage that is killing basically everything right now. Everything. And like I said, it's just starting to recover. Wrestling is. And so the sports will probably, the Super Bowl will probably have the Black National Anthem. That's what I keep hearing.
What is that even?
It's, I couldn't even begin to explain it, but it's a Black National Anthem. It's their own BLM song and shit like that they now sing usually at the beginning of every fucking Super Bowl now, ever since they started it. And I forget when they started it. But, it's lame shit like that, runs off quality fans that don't want to have anything to do with it. And it's going to be interesting because, this Super Bowl is about Taylor Swift. You know what I'm saying? And Travis Kelce and the Pfizer thing going on with them attached to their personas and whatnot. And people don't care about that kind of shit, especially the people that are watching sports. They just don't care. And so, a lot of the problem is, and this is a thing right now, it's a video that I did the other day where, these independent journalists are crying because nobody's trafficking their sites. Nobody cares what they're having to say. Well, all your stuff is basically political narrative bullshit. It's no real investigation. You're not getting any real information. It's not improving anybody's quality of life. So there's no quality in it. That's why people are not tuning into this stuff anymore. And, you go ahead and look at these YouTubers, and whenever it starts to hit those people over there in these OnlyFans markets and these gamer communities, this is just a start that it's hitting the independent journalist here in the vlogosphere and whatnot. That's just a start. Like me and Blake has already said, there's going to be a shaking where everything's going to get turned upside down right now. I do believe that we're heading into that sixth seal. And so these people who have been given these positions of being an internet content creator and an internet influencer right now, for I'd say since 2016, whenever they started to kick all of us off the internet, I lost my main YouTube account. Well, actually, it was actually my second YouTube account because my first one got, fucking WJ was responsible for that one. But my second YouTube account, my main account, my Prodigal Hill account, that one got terminated. At the same time that guy terminated, they took down one of my Twitter accounts. I forgot. I've went through so many of them. And then they took down my original Facebook account. That's why I don't have as many friends. That's why I don't have as many people on any of these platforms as I used to back whenever these platforms were more organic. So what you have is a placebo, with a lot of these markets right now. And this is why these people are starting. You're going to notice it in the media market because they were the first. The media market with the BLM bullshit and with the mass shootings and all this other stuff, spreading calamity. People get tired of that stuff. And people are, like I said, it's going to start to, a lot of the stuff is going to start to shake. People are having less confidence in these political parties. You have probably two of the worst candidates right now running for that office, Trump and Biden. And people are getting tired of it. We're not getting any solutions. All we're getting is more problems. And like I said, you're, just making more problems. And why are we paying taxes for you to make problems? You're supposed to be solving problems, and they're not. So, we're getting really close.
I'm ready, man. I mean, I don't know if, like, I don't want to sound like one of these crazy people, because again, we have went over again and again what we mean by the beginning and not the end. But it's like, I'm just ready for it, dude. It's this world has. I think if you look long enough, it's like one of these old sayings. I think it was maybe Carl Jung or Jordan Peterson, and this is pre. No matter what you feel about Peterson, he's kind of went into lunatic mode on Twitter now. But if you listen to him years ago, the man had valid points. It's almost like if you stare into the abyss long enough, you see the light. And I feel like collectively that may be what we're going through and doing right now. So I'm just ready for that new. I'm just ready for the system to flip, and I'm ready for this to be the beginning.
Yeah, because all they push is anxiety, hatred, confusion. Like I said, that's all. Like I said, whenever you look at the secular atheists, that's all they're pushing. They're never offering you any kind of real answers, but they'll give you a litany of fucking questions. That's what they do, but they don't give you any answers for anything. Even their own science, they can't be honest about. If you confront them and tell them about all the shit that I just went over, about their own science and how it's mathematically impossible for evolution to take course, and you call them out on that, you'll never get any real answers out of them. But they'll make sure to sit there and question you about your faith by cherry picking certain Bible verses. They never give you the whole scripture, because if they gave you the whole scripture, well, then the scripture, what did I say? It interprets itself. It answers its own questions. And that's really all you have to do. And so, like, when you look at where we're at today, they're getting everybody to, they take this, medical commie cough bullshit, and they turn people against each other about masked and unmasked. They turn people against each other with the stimulus stuff and creating inflation. Now your food is going up and whatnot. All they've done is created more chaos in this country. And it's something that is going to eventually, people are going to have to come down to the conclusion that it's going to have to be addressed. And if you're not going to fix anything, it doesn't matter if you're Donald Trump or if you're Joe Biden. If you have no interest in fixing any of this stuff, because I've already said that if we went into Mexico, right, I guarantee you that we're the ones that are funding. We're the ones that are funding these drug cartels. I guarantee you can go back, you investigate these drug cartels, you'll see that the American government are funding them. I guarantee you that a lot of these governments and stuff like that are also funding the sex trafficking and a lot of this shit. And so, like I said right now, they're investigating crimes against humanity on Israel regarding the Palestinians and stuff that, that's supposed to be happening, but they're not talking about that. They're talking about barbed wire on the Texas border, which makes no sense whatsoever. That just sounds like a grift to me. So, these are issues that are going to have to end up being, we're going to have to address these issues, because believe it or not, regardless if you think that, oh, I'm going to make a video on this and I'm going to get a lot of views and I'm going to make a lot of money and all this other stuff, you're not offering any solutions. And this is, like I said, it's only like a temporary fix. Like Blake says, is that we're going to have to come to a place, and like I said, where we're not hating each other so much, where we got to love each other. And that's what God is. God is love. Says this in the Bible. Bible says that God is love. And so this is exactly why Everybody's like, well, why is there so much there's wickedness in our hearts? That's why it says this in scripture too. If why don't because they always use the Epicurus thing to make it seem like they have a point. Why is there so much wickedness? If God can go ahead and destroy wickedness and all this other stuff, then why forth does wickedness come? Because if God were to destroy evil, then He would have to wipe us all away.
Yeah.
You would be dead. That's what would happen. But God loves us, so God is giving us a chance. This is why Jesus had to come back, to go ahead and give us a chance to go ahead and have a relationship with God. Because if God just went ahead, right, and said, you know what, Satan, Lucifer, the devil, whatever you want to call it, right, you're
Right.
evil, I'm just going to throw you in the lake of fire. And everybody was to see that, well, then God kind of looks like a tyrant. You have to understand evilness. You have to understand wickedness. You have to be able to understand what burdens these things carry. Blake had to understand the issues with psychedelics. He had to understand the issues with alcohol, because if we just went ahead and did a straight out, what did they call that back in the 40s whenever they banned alcohol?
Prohibition.
Prohibition. If we did general prohibition, everybody who has never taken a drink or had alcohol destroy their lives would say, oh, well, they're just being authoritarian. Oh, there's nothing wrong with having a drink. They don't understand the sin. You know what I'm saying? But if, they drink alcohol and they're allowed to drink alcohol, then they understand how alcohol has destroyed their lives or whatnot. So you don't look like a tyrant whenever people are like, yeah, you know what? We don't need alcohol anymore, because alcohol does nothing but destroy our lives. So we had to been given, this is why we have wickedness, evilness, and sin in this world, is because we were meant to judge sin. And that's the whole point of this world in the first place.
And that's, I truly believe this. I've used this saying so many times, and it rings true more and more. You have to walk through hell to get to heaven, or you wouldn't know the difference. If it was not for hell, you would not know heaven. If it was not for free will and these things out here to experience and know you don't want it, then you wouldn't know what you wanted and what was good. It's like if you were just born into heaven and from the get-go, unless God somehow programmed you to understand exactly, I don't know how to explain this, but do you understand where I'm coming from, Paulson?
Yeah. I understand where you're coming from. Like I said, you wouldn't know it, You wouldn't understand the ramifications of having sin in your life if you're not allowed to have sin in your life.
Right.
And so, that's the whole point of this world. And so, like I said, for the most part, it's not going to be, the earth doesn't end. It's not going to be destroyed. The fucking climate change experts will sit there and tell you this. And like I said, they know, the fucking Luciferians know, that control your system and whatnot. Satan knows. Everybody really, at the end of the day, even those atheists know. That's why you have to invent your placebos to go along, because you understand that we're about to become in a time of judgment. For the Christians, it's just a means to an end of this world. You know what I'm saying? In the way that we know it right now. For those people who refuse to accept God, well, then there's going to be judgment. And we as Christians have had the opportunity. God gave us the opportunity by sending Jesus here, saying, hey, we want to accept you as our God. We understand we're never going to be, only God's going to be perfection. We'll never reach that level, regardless of what the atheists will try to have you believe. But we need a creator. We need a father to go ahead and watch out for us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And those people who are going to reject him, guess what? You're going to be judged, and they know that they're going to be judged. And they're under the ridiculous notion, and I'm just going to tell you, freaking ridiculous because it would never stop anything. They're under the ridiculous notion that if they attack us, if they go after us, and if we're not going to believe in God, that's somehow going to put off their judgment. No, that's not how it works at all. You know, um, you've already been judged. There's nothing that we could do about it. All
Yeah.
we could do is sit there and offer you, hey, this is what worked for us. This is what we're doing right now. This is the direction that we're going. Because being a Christian isn't about being perfect. It's about being better today than I was yesterday and being better tomorrow than I am today.
And
That's what
then,
Christianity is.
yeah. And then also, if you do slip up, because again, you're not perfect. You're never going to be perfect. People's going to slip up. People's going to backtrack. They're going to make mistakes. The most important thing I can say to anyone, because I've done that in the past, and I was a tyrant to myself and beat myself up, and I truly feel it was almost like God spoke to me and is like, learn from it, let it go, just don't continuously do it. And going into this judgment thing, it's like, brother, I'm telling you, you will be judged. And but I feel like me and you, I'm just going to speak for myself because I don't want to put anything into your mouth here. But I judged myself harshly. So I can only imagine what's going to happen when these people start to realize this and they actually start what I like to call waking up and realizing the things they've actually done, some of the things they've said, the way they've impacted not only themselves but others, their family, their community, society. uh, Dude, the hardest thing for me to do was to forgive myself because I judged myself. Oh, brother, I judged myself harshly. And I feel like you have the opportunity, anyone listening to this right now has the opportunity to be forgiven. God forgives you and will forgive you. You got to forgive yourself. But it's like, don't judge yourself too harshly. Be honest with yourself, but don't do like I did because I went overboard with it. I punished myself, man. Like I intentionally, and I can admit this because I felt like I deserved it. I intentionally put myself in hell for a minute. And when I say a minute, I mean a while. Because that's how guilty I felt. That's how remorseful I was. That's how, and throughout this whole thing, God was telling me, like, pretty much basically, like, I forgive you, forgive yourself. Like, it's fine that you, like, learn from this. Don't, just don't continue to do it. But it was almost like I felt like I had to feel that, to I don't know, man, how to explain it. I don't know how you feel about karma. I believe karma is real. It's just depending on the definition of karma. But it was almost like I had to feel the way I almost made other people feel. And it wasn't good, man. It was not good. And I tortured myself for a while. And I'd be lying to you right here right now if I said I've fully forgiven myself. But I'm close to it and I'm working on it because me not having my kids, I mean, obviously my kids are in my life, but not to the extent I want them to be. And I really hurt my ex-wife, man. Like, I really hurt her, and that bothers me. And so that really ate at me. And the fact that I don't have my family now is probably the thing that eats me up the most. So I would really, that's another reason I go out here and talk about these things I talk about. It's like family's everything. And again, family does not have to be blood even, but like you should try the best of your ability to have a relationship with your parents. Unfortunately, I can't have one with my father because that's a subject for another day. But my kids and my wife, that's what I consider real family. And the friends around me, people like you, Paulson, even though we've never met face to face, I would consider you family. And like that's why I preach family's everything, especially the family you created, especially the person you chose to marry and the children you have. And you should cherish every second of that and not take it for granted. So it's just I don't think people understand when the it's hard to deal with things that you've done in your past if you're not, if you have this suit of armor on like I did, and then God came along and just destroyed that armor, and brother, it was rough. That's the only way I know how to put it. It was rough. Did
Yeah.
you did you experience that when you first started waking up, or however you want
Like
to phrase it?
I'll tell you this right here. First off, I there's no way in hell right now that I would probably be able to stand to be around me whenever, I was going through my younger years, immature, doing that stuff. Like I said, I had the same, I guarantee you, if I didn't have the same problem with alcohol, I at least had an equal or greater problem of alcohol than you did.
Yeah, I didn't
Especially
have
whenever,
that bad of an alcohol. Now, that's not true. I had it bad with alcohol, but it was only for a short period of time. It was from my mother got diagnosed with cancer, COVID hit, God started waking me up, and then that's when, like I said, all that went down, and it was about a year and a half probably that I was bad on alcohol. So you probably did have it worse with alcohol than me, but like again, going back before that, like uh, I would do drugs quite a bit and to try to escape, and it was like binges or I had to have something every day, whether it be weed. And yes, anybody listening, weed is a drug. It is a gateway drug, and it is harmful. Yes, there's medicinal purposes to it. And Poston will back me up on this. I used to be the biggest biased person ever towards weed, and so
yeah,
I'm trying to. I don't know. Like right now, I take anxiety medication and I take an antidepressant. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I also take an ADHD medication. I'm trying to slowly get off that. And I'm not telling people out there that's listening you need to be all natural and there's anything wrong with taking this medication if you need it, because it helps. It helped get me through rough times. But I want to get to a point and figure out what it is within me that is making me that way, so I can at least attempt to go all natural. And then if I can't, I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with anxiety medicine or antidepressants, and especially if you have ADHD. I'm not saying any of that. So please don't misinterpret anyone listening what I'm saying. I'm just saying for me personally, my goal is to slowly come off, fix myself enough to slowly come off of it and do what I like to call real science and see how I feel going natural. That because I've already stopped the weed. And I feel so much better. Don't drink. I don't do anything but those things right there that I just mentioned, and they're prescribed. So, well, all of it, but the ADHD medication. The only reason I couldn't, but my doctor knows I take it. I get it from someone that is very trusted. My doctor actually recommended me taking it, and the only reason I haven't been able to get a prescription for it yet, and I've been diagnosed with it several times, is because of I guess the way this new system is. They would rather give you pain pills or benzodiazepines than that, because it's a stimulant, which I do not understand, because I function and my mind's not all over the place way better on it, and I'm not taking it for abuse like that. It's just like it calms my mind down and I can actually focus. However, I truly believe once I can fully trust. And my main point is, I think if I can just heal myself and fully let go and trust into God, my mind wouldn't be going all over the place. So I wouldn't need that.
yeah, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be more autonomous. You know what I'm saying, and not dependent on any other kind of medication or whatnot. There really isn't anything wrong with that at all. Uh, but like I said, like whenever there'd be no way, because I was like selfish, and like both you and I were yeah, I guess would be considered, if not at least atheist agnostic. I won't say that I was full board atheist, but I
Right.
hung around a lot of atheist people. Like I said, I was in the Navy, worked in robotics, so you hang out with a lot. I was hanging out with people that would we're like fucking geniuses for the most part. And me being a blue collar guy, like you said, playing a lot of sports and whatnot, and just being able to, understand the sciences behind this. And it was kind of like, for me, it was like a duck out of the water. So you're going to try to fit in with the environment that you're in. And the thing that I noticed is, especially like in the atheist circle, is it's set up much like every other uh, mystery religion. You have hierarchies, and it's all like this, like the Illuminati pyramid, basically. You have to go up to degrees and stuff like that, and you have these people that have their little social circles, and they're so much brighter than everybody else, and everybody's just trying to control the other people and whatnot. At the same time, like Blake was sitting there saying, he was trying to fill that void with, like, drugs and alcohol. And it's the same thing for me. It was alcohol and sex basically for me. Like I said, I was a sailor, I was in the military, and it just, when you're around those kind of people and this is what they do, then it's what you do. And it's kind of like, to a degree, a currency or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, you know what? I got drunk and I had sex with all these women and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And so, but it never fills any kind of real void. You can do it as much as you want to. You could sit there and live your life like this all you want to. But the people that are secular and atheist and whatnot, they understand that there's something missing in their lives. It doesn't matter. Blake had the perfect marriage. You know what I'm saying? He had his kids. He had the perfect life.
I did.
But yeah, but there was something missing in that life. And then what ended up happening is, and see, like for me, I was always single. So I never had that. You know what I'm saying? To sit there and say, well, I guess I should be thankful for it because I probably would have ended up in the same situation. But there was something missing in your life, and then once you found what was missing, and you realized you didn't need that stuff anymore, well, your life starts to begin to turn around. And mind you, that becoming Christian doesn't make your life perfect. You're not going to be a billionaire. You're not going to be living on a yacht. You're not going to have everything. God doesn't reward you like this right here, but you're satisfied. And that satisfaction, you're at peace, is what it is. You're at peace. And that peace, that satisfying peace that God gives you, is going to be worth more than fucking Elon Musk going from country to country talking about, what is he talking about? AI. And then he has to go to the yeah, he has to go. What does he have to do? He has to go to. He says something about the Israel conflict, so now he has to go to Israel and appease the Jewish community on Twitter and whatnot. And so, that's just, they try to replace God, and that's what it is. And like I said, happiness doesn't exist without Him. God can't give you happiness without, Him. So you have to accept God. And like I said, I see it all the time. These atheists come out and they try to pretend. And, believe it or not, Blake right here, I've known Blake for years. He was one of those guys that had something missing, but he would try to present himself like he was doing good. He had a higher paying job. Everything was, better. At that point in time, I'm still Christian and I'm working 2 or 3 jobs.
Yep.
But like I said, you know what? I didn't. I got to meet a lot of people. I didn't hate it. I was just as happy working those jobs, even though it was
miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Like
so
I can openly admit this. I came on YouTube and whatever, and it wasn't all an act or a lie, but like, dude, I presented that I was like, because it wasn't a lie in the sense that I really did have that, but it was a lie in the sense that I didn't see it for what it was. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm sure you understand where I'm going with it and what I'm trying to say. Like, I didn't lie about, like, oh, money or my family or anything like that, but I lied about how fulfilled I was with that. And I tried to make myself seem, I guess, like something I wasn't, man. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, Pulse. And this is one of my biggest things I can look at looking back throughout my life is I was fake a lot, meaning that I wasn't my true self. And I don't think a lot of people are their true selves. And I think in order to be your true self, I'm not saying you have to connect with God, but it's I don't know. All I know is I just really started becoming my true self over these past few years, and like even more so recently. Because I don't know why, man. Like, I just wanted to fit in. Like, and that's sad to say because like I am known as like a rebel, and it's weird because it was like part of me was my true self, and the other part was like just trying to fit in. If that, I don't know how to make that make sense, but it's like I was myself, but I wasn't really myself sometimes because like I would go along with things or like over petty, stupid BS, man. Like this person, like Drake. I'll give you a silly example. Like I love Drake. I think Drake makes amazing music, and I think I enjoy his style of music. But a lot of people didn't like him. So when it was asked about, I would say, yeah, I don't like Drake. And then like silly stuff like video games, I would say I didn't like if I did, or I liked if I didn't. And the way I dressed, dude, in high school and middle school, I went from being uh man, I was all over the place. I went from being a quote unquote like punk outcast, even though I had people, to being a prep jock. Then I went to thinking I was, and please, anyone listening to this, do not take offense to what I'm getting ready to say. I tried to be the quote unquote rapper, like black rapper. I tried to be black straight up. I was wearing jerseys and headbands and do rags, and then I went back to my prep phase. Now I'm just more of myself. I would dress the way I want to dress. If I want to dress up one day, I will. If I want to wear athletic stuff, I will. I'm just learning to be me and accept me. Is what I'm really trying to say. And it's just kind of sickening. Um, but again, I got to let it go and everything. Not look back and with regret. But I'm trying to. I'm really just saying this to people so they don't fall into it. Like, be yourself, unapologetically yourself, but actually realize who you really are before you do that. Like, I don't know the words to put together to say to make it like not, because people can interpret that many different ways. So just find out who you really are and be yourself and everything, and believe in yourself and believe God has your back. This is my favorite saying, is rooted in Christ and blessed by God. Like, be yourself like that. And I mean, I don't think you can lose that way. And again, like Poston said, everything's not going to be magic and come to you like crazy, but the biggest thing is peace of mind and not having that weird battle within yourself and within your heart, and that heaviness on your heart and that void in your chest. Like, and again, I'm not saying if once you accept God in Christ, like you still can't. I mean, if you want to be successful, you still could be successful. You could go make money, be a millionaire, a billionaire. I just think you would use it in the proper manner to help people and not flaunt it or go quote unquote flex it on social media. So
Yeah, you'll be more satisfied with it, basically. And like I said, you could be a millionaire without God, but then you're going to want to be, 10 millionaire. And then once you get the 10 million, you're going to want 100 million. Once you get that 100 million, and it'll never be enough to fill that void without God. If you're a millionaire with God, then you're going to be happy with that million. Then maybe eventually you do become, get that 10 million. And then maybe you do, and like he said, you just be more at peace with it. And dude, I'm telling you, it's like whenever I argue with, or whenever I get into debates or, exchanges, I don't really call them debates anymore because I don't believe that the atheists have the ability to debate in good faith. But whenever I get into these, these disputes with atheists on Twitter, it's almost like I'm arguing with myself. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like hey, dude, I'm like, and that's like, it's like looking into a mirror and it's like looking at all the ugly parts of yourself. It's like, how was I ever this cringy? And it kind of, to a degree, I had to like, stop exchanging with these atheists anymore because, you go back and forth with them and then you prove that they're logical fallacies, and then they double down, and then they give you these peer-reviewed studies, and like somehow that's supposed to change my mind. I was one of you people, all right? That's not going to happen ever again. And I can tell you right now, you can answer why I would never want to go back to being a secular agnostic or atheist. You understand why. Because once you have peace in your life, you're still searching for that peace. And then you're asking me to, accept your ideology, which is absolutely 110% is. It's not science. There's no credible science behind evolution. There's no, you look at this epistemistic relativism that, is based off of Plato or Aristotle or Descartes or any of these other philosophers and these Keynesian economics and stuff like that. It's all complete and utter lunacy. And if you were intellectually honest with yourself, you would come to this conclusion. But the sheer fact is that a lot of these people work in these fields, particularly in academia, and at this point in time, they either A, don't want to, or B, can't because they understand that their check is connected to it in some way, shape, or form. So, like, we see the fruits in society that secularism completely, it's not sustainable for society. And this is something that I sit there and I say quite a bit. Life can exist without death. You can have life without death. God is proof of that. God is eternal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's never going to die. You can have life without death. However, you cannot have death without life. Something has to live for it to die. You understand what I'm saying? So when you listen to like these Luciferians peddle as above, so below, there's no way that your satanic worldview could ever sustain itself. You're the snake eating its own tail. You need people who have the relationship with God, that, have this morality. Otherwise, your society would never be able to sustain itself. It just wouldn't. And so, whenever you hear these atheists sit there and tell you that, we just need to get rid of God.
Worst mistake ever, dude.
Yeah, they would. They if we got rid of God, right? And this is for the anarchist. You can sit there and say about all these 4,000 gods and how, which God do we worship and whatnot. All those gods existed. I'm just going to let you know, because all those gods are based off of the original Babylonian king. That's where, the Tower of Babel is where polytheism began, And so all those gods existed. If you want to worship them gods, you can. They're not going to bring the same kind of product that, Christ brings, that Jesus, that the Creator brings. They're not going to bring that kind of product. But if you want to worship those gods, feel free. That's not an argument, though. You can sit there and say that all these people worshipped all these gods and we should respect all their religions equally. This is exactly how we end up in the problems that we have right now with these diversity hires and stuff, is that we have to make concessions to everybody, which is, why should I have to make concessions to other people? This is why, the communists sit there and claim capitalism is the source of all evil, right? No, communism is not the answer. All right. Giving everybody equal portions of everything is not the answer. Uh, Living a good, holy life, taking care of yourself, you know, uh, if I had more of my money, who knows? I would probably be able to give more to charity. Whenever we print out this money and just start giving it away willy nilly, what happens? The price of everything goes up. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I meant, it's just secularism and atheism would never be able to sustain itself. The only way that you are able to is goes back to Egypt, right? Egypt prospered because they brought in Joseph. You know, that's how they prospered, and that's how the every world empire prospered because they had people that had a relationship with the Creator, including the United States of America. Every world power that was able to go ahead and claim authority over the world had people in it that had a relationship, and they prospered because of those people. And like I said, it's the same thing right here with the United States of America. And the sure fact is, every society who went away from from those people who started to turn back and started to rely on themselves and their own better judgment, they're the ones that end up collapsing in every case scenario. And we see it all the time. How many times do we have to see it before we start to understand that it's necessary? That I don't have all the answers, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. No one has all the answers, and I think that might be part of God's plan, like that we all need to come together. Uh, I think that's part of the plan that God's trying to do right now is basically us unite and come together. Because maybe if we all come together and we listen to God, we could not. I mean, I'm not saying we'd have ever have all the answers, but we would have the answers to make this a whole lot better of a living condition and to make it. I don't know what I'm trying to say, Paul. I think God's plan is for us to unite. I really
Yeah.
do.
And that's not be exactly the same. That's not to agree on everything whenever Blake says that. Because Blake's relationship with God is going to be different than mine.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
my relationship is going to be different with Blake. I'm going to be better at some things because God gave me my spirit, and I'm going to be better at maybe interpreting things. Blake may be better at having the visions. I interpret the vision that Blake had. You know what I'm saying? So, Blake may be a better builder. You know, I may be I may be a better, farmer, And
It's
so,
yeah,
we're not going to be the same. We're all going to be different.
and that's what we
However,
want.
right. And so, however, with that being said, I raise the cattle, I raise the food, or whatever it is. Blake builds me a house, and that's how it works. He builds me the barns to keep the cows in and whatnot. And this is how it is, kind of like a symbiotic relationship. And this is kind of like how we need to start working together because everybody has something that they can bring to the table. Everybody has their own specialties. Everybody has their own passions, their own loves, and stuff like that that they enjoy doing and whatnot. And so, when you look at government and the people that are currently running this are the people that are, in the secular society, they try to keep everybody from reaching their full potential. But that was Plato's philosophy to begin with, is to keep a slave class out there. He had three classes. You had the philosopher class, which was like the elite of society, the auxiliary class, which was the soldiers, the enforcers, and then you had the slave class. And this is basically the principles. Like I said, we'll have to do a video on how Satan has used these how he's been controlling society from behind the scenes, and people don't really understand the full complexities of what Lucifer, Satan, and how he's used to control this place so far. But like I said, we'll get into that next week. It's be like another freaking 3 hour discussion there.
Yeah,
But
I'm gonna tell you, Paulson, I actually will have another probably 30 minutes to let you. If you need to get off, I completely understand. But the reason that I was gonna have to get off early was due to one of my friends. He's a younger kid. I don't know if he'll ever watch this, but shout out Luca if you are. He's someone that I have been mentoring for quite a while, and I'm very proud to say that I have led him to God. And he's opening his eyes up more and more to it and accepting it more and more. And he was having kind of he's had a rough couple days. So it was very important for me to be there for him. But I just I got a message a little while ago saying that he would be, about 30, 45 minutes. So I'm good for another, like I said, 30 minutes, unless you need to end it. But there's a
yeah,
lot. There's a lot bro. There's a lot we could talk about going into this, and going back to earlier about how the uniting part. I want to make that clear. I'm not saying we all want to think the same and be the same and be this hive mind, whatever. We all. I am a big proponent for individualism. I think that I think the way forward and the way to quote unquote save whatever is through individualism. However, the even though I'm saying that and saying that we need to unite, like it's I don't want to make that sound like it contradicts itself, because we do need to unite. But again, we need to be our own individuals. We just need to learn to work together and not be petty and resentful if we don't agree on everything. We don't have to agree on everything. Like, we don't have to. Like, just it blows my mind, the whole race and I mean, I don't want to. I think that and I think you may be spot on, Paulson. Like, I'm obviously going to be better at certain things than other people. Other people are going to be better at certain things than me, and I think that, like, I may be able to, like, I think you nailed it spot on. Like, I almost have these visions and these like ways to go about putting it out there, but you somehow seem to be able, because I'm working on simplifying it and finding the right words. And I've noticed throughout a couple of these podcasts, like, I would be trying to speak about something, and then there's sometimes I can get it and I can get it eloquently and simple, straight to the point. And there's other times I struggle. And it seems like those times I struggle, you're able to come in right behind me and be like, say the perfect thing. And I mean, that's what I mean by working together and uniting. You know? But it has to go deeper than that. It has to go to, like, society, and it has to go to the structure of the system. And by the system, I mean, like, the government and our money and god dang, our taxes, man. Like, I don't know how far you want to go with this or where you're trying to get, but I'm going to keep bringing this up until people fully wake up to it and comprehend it. Where are your taxes going? Why is there not right? I'm not saying to riot, or like peaceful protests will be cool. And I'm not like saying that we should absolutely have a revolution, but I hope it happens if something does not happen soon. But the fact that we're getting taxed 10 times a Sunday, there's no account to where our taxes are going. You look around to where they should be going. Potholes everywhere, homeless people, especially veterans that are not taken care of. School systems are like, man, this is all I'm saying. You need to really question where your money is going. Where's your taxes going? And then question, when you find out where they're going, why they're going in people's pockets and why they're going to other countries, especially other countries that hate us.
yeah,
Like,
and I'll tell you something. And I, did the math on this myself. The federal government pulled in $5.3 trillion. I think it was in 2020. It was $5.3 trillion.
right,
We have 39 million people that live below the poverty line in the United States from one degree or the other.
right.
with that $5.3 trillion that the government brought in, that is $140,000 per person living in poverty right now. So
That would change everybody's lives, brother.
yeah, yeah. You not even just you don't even have to take all of that $140,000. If you just took a percentage of it, then I'm not saying that you give it to them like socialism because we know socialism doesn't work. It doesn't work. I'm going to tell you this right now. This is one of the issues that we have in this country right now because whenever you provide this assistance, this free money essentially to people, that's not going to effectively make them better. You know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah.
only giving them money to exist, and you still need to put out some sort of quality, some sort of work. You still need to produce in society. Like I said, everybody has something to offer, and if everybody was producing and putting in what they have to contribute to society, well, then society would be in a hell of a lot better place than it is right now. So sitting there printing out money and giving it away for people just to exist is definitely not the answer. But with
Right.
that being said, if this money was able to flow back into the economy like it should, well, then these people would probably have an opportunity to go out there and make that money because it's out there flowing free into the economy. Instead, what they do is they hoard all this money and then they print out more money. And this is what causes your inflation. It's called Keynesian economics. I was ahead whenever everybody was calling me a conspiracy theorist on this. I was saying that this was going to happen years ago. I was working security. I was seeing people take out these these people that were already on government subsidies, taking out these $40,000-$50,000 checks and tax returns at your tax dollars' expense, essentially under the Obama administration, and they were just being basically given money. You know what I'm saying? And that was your money. And so that's not money. They would print this money out and give it to these people, but they have to take that money out of your pockets. And it's the biggest fucking Ponzi scheme in the world. And so I, for one, don't mind paying taxes if I understand that the taxes are going to, raise the quality of life.
Correct. I
But
do not have a problem with taxes, by the way. For anyone listening, I have zero issues paying taxes. In fact, I think it is a good thing and it should be done. However, I don't think it should. You need to pick. Like you do not need to tax me on me working, and then tax me on me buying something, and then tax me on everything I buy. Like pick one or the other. Pick one or the other. And if you're going to keep it the way like getting taxed 10 ways to Sunday, which I am look, I'm for paying taxes. I am absolutely against getting taxed at that much. Like I think you should get taxed once, maybe twice at the absolute most at all on your money. Like obviously per check or whatever. I truly just think it should be straight out you're taxed out of, well, I don't know, man. Pick one. Either you tax me on my paycheck or you tax me on the stuff I buy out here. You pick one. That's just my personal opinion. But
I don't think we need an income tax. I think that the income tax is a form of fascism. I think we just need to abolish the income tax because I think that the most legitimate way of taxing is a sales tax.
okay,
That's
I agree. Either one
so
I'm good with.
that's what we need to do because the sheer fact is that they can arbitrarily use the income tax to tax people. It's too much legislation in it. It's too much. You can't sit there and arbitrarily do the and like I said, you look at 16 cents would still bring in an extra 16 cents would still bring in the same kind of revenue that the income tax brings in. It'd be the same kind of it, and I'd be willing to do that. But like I said, there yet again, at the same point in time, we need to stop funding all this ridiculous bullshit. I honestly don't believe that you need that $5.3 trillion going into the federal government right now. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah,
And
it's a joke.
yeah, all you're doing is devaluing the dollar. And so this Christ brings a sword guy says no seals are opened until after the rapture. The rapture isn't until after Jesus returns because Jesus has to be here to take, his faithful servants to heaven. I'm not a pre-tribulation rapture kind of guy myself. I do believe that the rapture will happen, but it won't happen until after all the events have happened. And so you can be a dispensationalist all you want to, but I can tell you right now, that's why a lot of people that's why a lot of you have the great falling away that's happened. We already know that the great falling away has happened. You can go ahead and dispute all my stuff that I've made in this video and claim that, and I've had a lot of people sit there and call me the Antichrist.
I've had people say that about me too, bro, which is hilarious, man.
All I'm doing is trying to, but at that point in time, I'm sure that they considered that Jesus. I'm pretty sure that they consider Jesus like a false prophet too, as well.
You know what I said, Paulson? I said this a couple years ago, and I said it a few different times. I said this world is so messed up and backwards that if Jesus himself came right now, that these people are so brainwashed. And I don't mean anybody listening, I'm not making fun of you. I'm sorry. That's probably the wrong word to say. They are programmed because of, dude, I was too. Most people are. It's nothing to be embarrassed or ashamed about. Like, again, make your own personal relationship with God and or Christ or whatever, and you'll see. But I truly believe if Christ himself came back right now, the way that this has been presented to people, they would think he was the Antichrist, or they would call him that. And it's so mind blowing to me. It's almost like people, and again, this is not aimed at this Christ brings a sword, brother. You're my brother. Anybody that believes in Christ is my brother. Any human, really, regardless of what you believe, I consider you my brother. But like, people think that the world needs to go to quote unquote, like, really go to hell, and before it gets better. And I'm like, I'm agreeing with you, Paulson. I think that we're already pretty much there and done with. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's me too. And like I said, this isn't my interpretation. This is the Bible interpreting it. You know what I'm saying? This is in scripture. Go back and read the Bible. Like I said, from what I see right now, whenever I read scriptures, go through Kings. There's a girl on here who reads the Bible. And of course, Kings is like one of my favorite chapters and whatnot, because I'm an Elijah guy, myself. So, I just love the story of Elijah. And, I think that, to me personally, Elijah was the first troll because he was trolling the fuck out of the Baal worshippers. So, it's just one of my favorite stories in the Bible. And when you go back and you look at Kings, because everybody's like worshiping the Jews right now. They're worshiping the Jews. Israel can say anything and everybody's just going to fall in line with it. And that's like one of those things, buyer beware, because they're like, oh, well, these people are God's chosen people. Okay. What makes them God's chosen people? And, like I said this before, how many relatives do you have that are kin to King David, that are kin to Abraham, for you to claim to be a seed of Abraham? Is it just one? Because, like I said, Blake, you have two parents, you have 4 grandparents, you have 8 great grandparents, and then you keep following that back to 1,948 years before Jesus. It's almost mathematically impossible for you not to have a relative that would have fell in line with the seed of Abraham at this point in time. So to sit there and say that these group of people here that don't even worship Jesus, they're not Christians whatsoever. They read from a Jewish Talmud, the stuff that they believe about Jesus is just ultimately egregious. They carried the Star of Remphan on their flag of Moloch, and they believe that they need to, control that whole area and whatnot, and they're power hungry over there. Now, I'm not talking about everybody in Israel, and I'm not talking everybody that claims that they're a Jew is in this mindset. But the sheer fact is I'm supposed to go along with them wanting to go ahead and ethnically cleanse people to be a Christian? Well, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And it's these Zionists and stuff like that kind of come in, and it was the same thing that the Roman Catholics did in the Holy Roman Empire, where they came in, they're putting in these different ideologies into Christianity, and they're expecting, if you go against that, to go ahead and label you some sort of heretic. But they did the same thing to Jesus whenever Jesus was here,
Right. He was, yeah. That's really what bothers me, man. That bothers me a lot, the way they did him, and then like that's something that we'll get into in another video about how absolutely dirty he was done there at the beginning. You know what I mean? Like it's really sad, and it's brought upon a lot of tears, brother. This is something we'll go into because I want to talk about the way I see the full structure and the overall view of the Bible and what it's trying to portray and tell. Like you have the details down, and it seems like I have the bigger picture. And I'm not saying you don't have the bigger picture either. I just want to explain how my perception of that bigger picture is and how it goes along with not only humanity, but we'll save that maybe for next Saturday. Because
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yeah. Next Saturday, we go through Lucifer, how he's controlled people, used people to do his bidding. And then we'll go through, like you said, bigger picture of stuff like that. And try to go through a lot of the devices. And like I said, I thought we did a pretty decent cast. I think that this one's probably a lot better. I'm gonna have to take down the other video because, of course, unfortunately, the audio came out bad on that one. But I think that we've we've I think we did a little bit more with this video.
Yeah, it was a lot. This was a lot more articulate. It was a lot better put together. Last video, man. Again, I'm not I do believe certain things are. I don't fall into a conspiracy theory mindset, even though I do believe in some that I would consider facts, actually, not conspiracies. But dude, it was just weird that certain people popped up, and then the stream kept getting messed up for me and Steven, and then you having audio issues, and like I don't know. I don't want to think like that, but it almost appears to me that something or someone was trying to prevent us from getting that out there. Could be crazy. I don't know though.
But I mean, like, how much control do we have over the internet? We're just content creators. So, a lot of this stuff is out of our control. Like I said, I've had like several channels here, or profiles or whatnot, get taken out over my vast, like, since 2000, really mainly since 2013, whenever I started doing videos on YouTube. I think I've been targeted just as much as anybody on the internet, as far as, like, having my platform taken out. And like I said, there yet again, it goes back to that buying or selling thing that I went into detail, as according to what scriptures says that it is, not what I think it may be. And it goes along with that, there's certain messages that we can't get out right now. We're just not able to buy or sell, or get our messages out there and say, hey, open your eyes, because these people don't have your best interest in mind, and you need to rely more on God and less on government, because government can't have a competitor. Communism, that's one of the first things that they try to go after, is God, every time. And God gives you actual autonomy. The devil government gives you the illusion of autonomy. You can go out there and do a lot of psychedelics, and you think that that's freedom. You think that being an alcoholic and having multiple sexual partners and stuff is freedom and whatnot. And, you could sit there and say, hey, you know what? I'm liberated, like women's rights and burning bras and stuff like that. But is that really freedom? Are you really free? Or are you still just trapped by your own sin and whatnot?
All right. I guess earlier we were talking about that 140,000 thing, $140,000, and not just giving it. Like, this is truly. I'm gonna tell you what I believe, and I don't. I don't know how you'll feel about this, Paulson, but this is how I believe and what I think. I think that my quote unquote ideal, and I think a lot of people hopefully would agree with me, ideal like way of living and how we should handle things here is, I think that you should be provided a home. I think electricity and water should be free. And I think the bare necessities to quote unquote survive should be free. Other than
Now,
that, I think that you should have to go do something.
I'm
And
about I'm about to blow your mind right here. Because there's a friend that I have on Twitter right now, and I don't know what made her do this video, but like I said, I watched it, I tuned into it, and man, this kind of blew my mind. You know that in those theocracies over there, the Muslim theocracies, I have no problems with Muslims. I just want to let everybody know
yeah,
that
I
in the
have none
Christian,
either.
I have no problems. They are the most passionate about their God. Well, it's our God. It's all one God. They're monotheistic, just like us. They're the most passionate, faithful people to the Creator out there. With that being said, all that stuff you just said about the free housing, free water, free food, and stuff like that, they have that in their country. They have some of the best what we call social programs. They're not social programs. They have free health care and all that stuff over there in those countries and whatnot. And it's provided totally by the government. You want to know something else that they have? They have little to no taxes to do this. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And they put out some production. They have their oil and stuff like that, but they use that stuff to go ahead and provide for their people. We don't do that here.
And we should.
And that's why I say that, if it'd be up to me, we wouldn't have these border disputes. Go over there, take out the drug cartels that our government funds, take out these sex trafficking rings, way past due. Mexico has a ton of oil. All them Latin America countries have tons of oil and whatnot. Canada has oil that we were going to use with that pipeline. And ultimately, we could have used that to go ahead and market that oil over there to help. Guess what? The Asian countries need energy. You know what I'm saying? To provide for their people. We sell that oil to Asians. We could sell it fairly reasonable. We would still have the money coming out here. We could end up, basically balancing our budget with that oil, right? And then we use some of that money. We use that money to go in to fix the infrastructure in Mexico. The people that are in Mexico wouldn't have to cross the border because of all this. Oh, they're going through all this stuff. They're seeking exile, is what they say. Well, then let's fix that. Let's make sure that if they want to come over here, we can allow them. If they should be coming over here because they want to come over here, not out of some sort of uh, uh, you know they have to come out of here because they're running from something. We could fix that. We could help the Latin Americans and fix that world over there with all the drugs and sexual trafficking and all the crime and stuff like that. At the same time, we could help fix Canada's infrastructure because we have the oil, we have the means to do this stuff. We just don't want to. They want to stick with this synthetic socialist program and whatnot. And so, yeah, it is what it is.
And then going back to what we were talking about, I think that after that, like, you should contribute to get more. Like, if you want, and when I say survival too, like, I think a certain amount of food and clothing should be allotted, but nothing crazy, not this like free survivability thing should be like, I believe that's a God-given right, like, in my opinion. Again, this is all my opinion. And then I think, again, if you want more things or you want nicer things or etc., go out and I don't want to like, yes, work for it or volunteer places or like, I don't know. That's something that we could come together and figure out. Like, hey, go volunteer at this hospital and you could get X amount of whatever to go purchase what you want or go like find out something. I really think we need to focus on what people are good at and find out what they're good at and really implement that and I don't want to say hype people up, but support people and build up that strength within them to go out into the world and then they get rewarded for that. Like their purpose. Like I don't think we should give people free stuff except the basic survival needs. After that, then again, like go out and earn it in one way or the other. And that's
Yeah,
something.
necessities. Yeah, this is what you're talking about. You're talking about necessities. And, like I said, they do that in theocracies, which is, like I said, I do think that if we don't end up, with the shaking of, the entering in the sixth seal, which, like I said, there yet again, this Christ brings a sword is trying to sit there and dispute one way or the other. And like I said, for the most part, the pre-tribulation rapture was invented in the 1800s, and it was a way to go ahead and kind of divert people from focusing on the truth of revelations and whatnot. And because that a lot of the world powers, they don't want you to understand the truth of scriptures. But with that being said, if that's not the case, then I do think that all roads lead to Rome. You've heard that before, and I do think that it's very likely that the other alternative is that the United States right now is going through this metamorphosis, and I do think that the alternative to that is that we're going into a theocracy. But I don't believe that we're going to be raptured or anything. But um, we'll turn back into a theocracy. And I can tell you right now, all these secular, atheist, left wing, LGBTQ people, all these people that are pro abortion and, kind of like with that reprobate mindset, they're definitely not going to like that. Once we go into a theocracy, well, that's going to be no, that's not going to happen there, buddy. But once we go into that theocracy, then they're going to realize that they've made a lot of mistakes and that they've pushed society that far. And it's like I've told Stephen Rose. I said that pendulum has went so far left, and I'd say under the Bush administration, that pendulum went so far left to the Obama side, where it was straight out pure unadulterated communism, secularism, and just kind of having that reprobate mind aspect that people have now. That pendulum has swung so far right, where people are going to get extremely, and I don't mean like spiritual, like having that relationship with God, where they're going to use the word as a sword. And that's whenever you get persecutions. And I can tell you right now that when we get into these theocracies and whatnot, particularly like from that side, from the holy, it never works out for the Christians. It never works out for the Christians, ever.
And yeah, that's unfortunate and it freaking sucks, dude.
Yeah, see, you could see that this guy's kind of an evangelical. There's nothing wrong with it, man. But you really need to start looking in these scriptures for yourselves. I mean, there's nothing wrong with listening to like sermons and whatnot, and listening to these people, preach the word. But you need to discover it and ask God for, enlightenment than just going off of, you know,
What you've been
uh,
told.
yeah, what you've been told. So I mean, I like listening to Charles Lawson too. Don't get me wrong; he's like one of my favorite. But there's those times whenever Charles Lawson goes off the deep end, and he goes down those rabbit holes. Which, like I said, sometimes I'll go down with it, but he'll go down too far, and then that's whenever it's like, hey, look, you got to pull yourself away from that because you're heading down into dangerous territories. Like I said, you know you got to be open to different aspects of it, and you can sit there and say this stuff, but like I said, for the most part, a lot of the stuff, as far as like revelations and all this stuff, has already happened. If you think it's going to be like Left Behind, if you think it's going to be obvious, it's not. It's not going to be anything that's going to be obvious like that. But
What is your faith then?
yeah, we just assumed that you were a Christian, but or your age. Yeah, you're right. We don't know your age. We don't know your faith.
If you tell us, we would know. But I mean,
Yeah, it's just like one of those things to where it's like, yeah. But like I said, have we judged him yet? What does that even mean? We've judged you. How have we judged you? We're just
yeah,
putting your comments up here.
I don't judge anyone. I'm not perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, how have we judged you? Yeah, well,
Well,
okay. Yeah, I don't know what this guy's talking about. He's probably went down too far down like a rabbit hole or something. He's not presenting an argument. You're not giving an argument.
when Trump disappeared, I know you were saying something about Trump disappearing, but in a seal,
I
I'm
mean,
not.
like, there was this whole deal that the evangelicals were running where it was Trump and Pence, and it was supposed to be the last trumpet or whatever it is. They made a whole conspiracy about it. But it's kind of like the Obama 666 thing. You remember the fucking pick three whenever Obama was coming up, and everybody thought that Obama was the Antichrist, but Obama couldn't qualify to be the Antichrist because there's no way that Obama was going to live 1,260 years. Yeah, he's just going on with the rapture. The last Trump. The argument is at the last Trump. There is your rapture date. Trump faces 717 years in prison, according to the latest news. But see, there's your problem. There's your problem. You're listening to secular sources and you're trying to use these people who are putting out fake stuff. Trump is just putting on a performance. It's not real. You know what I'm saying? The shit that you're listening to with the 91 indictments and all this stuff, it's an illusion. It's not real. It's synthetic. They're making it up. Just like me and Blake just went over the works that we did back in the days, that wasn't real. We were, playing characters and whatnot. And so it's the stuff that you're basing your stuff on is you're trying to do an amalgamation of secular stuff and of the Bible. And I think that this is kind of where you're getting confused. Yes, I understand what it says in the Bible, but like I said, a lot of this stuff is metaphors as well. You know what I'm saying? The horns aren't legitimate horns. They're kings. It says this in the Bible. You need to read the whole Bible and then find out what these metaphors are. Like the sea. It's not a sea. Godzilla's not coming out of the ocean. It's the multitude of nations, peoples, and tongues. So the horns are meant to be symbolic.
This is all I'm going to say because I really am going to have to hop off here because he just hit me up and it's getting late to where I'm at and I can't.
Yeah.
And I got to get my daughter and stuff tomorrow, and my roommate's son's coming over super early. But I don't know what to say to you. Cross brings the sword. All I know is I would highly recommend you getting your own connection with God, getting your own connection with Christ, asking Him to give you wisdom, asking Him to give you the truth, and then you going and getting what I like to say, a mind of your own. Which, and again, I'm not judging you or coming at you harshly, brother. I love you and respect you. Go get a mind of your own, because essentially what you're doing is you're parroting things that other people have said, and you have not done the research on your own. And again, you can say I'm assuming that and I'm judging you, but from everything you have put here, you're either one, trolling, or two, parroting, and I have no clue which it is. And I hope you don't take that harshly, because I love you. Love you as a brother, love you as a human. But get a mind of your own, my friend. Get that personal connection.
So yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up, man, because you got to take off. So, anyways, you can go ahead and you could sub to him. Advice to you. Link is in the description for all these platforms. Y'all like, sub, do the shit the internet tells us to do to get over. And for now, we're out.
See you.